Knowing the Tampa Bay area and covering a threat from a hurricane from beginning to end, that's what we do best here at Spectrum Bay News 9. This is our community too. We love hearing people's questions and people's thoughts. We've been here for many storms and we know how people depend on us. Our number one goal is to keep you and your family safe. We don't take that responsibility lightly.
Watch the Spectrum Bay News 9 weather experts on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app. Weather on the 9s every 10 minutes. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Time now 1 o'clock, and we are starting to feel the effects of Hurricane Idalia right here in Tampa Bay. Thanks for watching Spectrum Bay News 9. I'm Jeff Butera.
And I'm Erin Murray. Hurricane Idalia making its way, as Jeff mentioned, even closer to Florida's west coast. We want to show you a live look right now. We want to go a bit more south with this camera view down to Key West. You can see here, they've got raindrops there on the camera lens as Idalia makes its way through the Gulf. Proof you do not have to be in the cone to feel those impacts.
That storm is off to the west of Key West. We are also starting to feel some of the effects of the outer bands right here in Tampa Bay, and we want to get to our meteorologist, Josh Linker, who continues to track this storm and is starting to see the impact. Josh.
Yeah, that's right. We're looking at Bradenton right now. We've been tracking this, the first band of heavy squall, gusty squalls moving northward, and an ominous-looking sky on our camera in Bradenton, brought to you by Motter Brothers Furniture and Mattress, and some folks just casually walking around the park there. They're going to be getting wet really soon as that is moving toward the north. So I'm going to start out here on Kleister 9 with the wider view. There is the center of Idalia, still well away from our coastline, but it's going to be moving to the north. Again, not concerned about hurricane conditions here, but we are looking at this band that is moving in. So let's take a view of that right now over Manatee County, and it is lifting toward the north. So Bradenton just about to get some rain. Lakewood Ranch, you're getting some heavy rain and gusty wind with this as it lifts toward the north. Pinellas County, you got the western edge of this line that's going to be coming through right now around Fort DeSoto, heading toward Tierra Verde, eventually Pinellas Point into the St. Petersburg area, and this will get your attention. Now, this is not a hurricane with respect to what would be a hurricane in your area, but you might actually see some wind gusts getting close to that 40-mile-per-hour range with this first band. And as the day progresses, the bands will get heavier, stronger, more frequent, and that'll take us into tonight and ultimately tomorrow morning, where we could be dealing with some pretty prolonged periods of 40 to 50-mile-an-hour wind with some of these heavy rains that are coming in. But if you're watching from southern Hillsborough, Tampa itself, this is going to hold together and make its way into your area, I'd say by about 2 o'clock or so in that area. Sooner, obviously, in southern sections of Hillsborough County. All right, we'll take a look then outside at another view. Here's St. Petersburg, and this is brought to you by the Crown Automotive Group. Still looking pretty calm at the moment. But again, those wind and rain conditions will be increasing. We'll talk more about some of the other hazards that we are expecting with Idalia as it passes by to the west. We'll talk about that coming up in a few minutes.
Thank you so much, Josh, as people make those final preparations.
All right, here's what Florida is dealing with. Major hurricane, the possibility of serious storm surge with impacts to our entire region here in Tampa Bay, and some severe impacts really somewhere along the west coast. We're here to get you prepared ahead of Idalia's arrival basically later today.
Officials are stressing listening to those calls for evacuation, especially if you're living in that zone A. And then, of course, being prepared early, but not a lot of time left for that preparation. Shelters, they are open in nearly every county, too, and the time to act is right now.
You need to take action now. You need to get you and your family, businesses, you need to get your employees ready now. The time is now. I implore you to finalize your disaster preparedness actions right now.
And at 1 o'clock, we have team coverage coming up for you during this hour, talking to people preparing their businesses, preparing their houses for the storm, and weighing those options. Should I stay or should I go?
We want to move now to an area that's supposed to see some serious impact from the storm. That's up in Citrus County. Business owners there along the coast know how serious the storm is and are doing their best to get ready ahead of time.
Our Jason Lanning spoke to people in Crystal River, spent the morning preparing. Here's Jason.
If you know Crystal River, then you know North Citrus Avenue. This is the heart of this small town shopping area. Today, stores are closing early. They're boarding up and sandbagging, and they are waiting. At Amy's on the Avenue, a worker is getting plywood in place, readying sandbags, and getting as much as they can off the store floors. The owner of Amy's also owns Fish Hook Outfitters across the street. And there we caught up with Amy Lee as she packed up store merchandise, moving it to higher racks in the store and loading it into a U-Haul to be moved to higher ground. Lee says she made the same preps last year for Hurricane Ian, even though there were no impacts for her stores. But for a lifelong Floridian like Lee, she says you can never get complacent, especially in a flood-prone area.
We are just so close to the bay, and the drains on Citrus Avenue are directly connected to the bay. So it kind of shoots out of those as well. And so we just have a spring of water, of the seawater coming in.
And to give you an idea how flood-prone Citrus Avenue is, sometimes all it takes is an afternoon thunderstorm to flood the street. Not only will Idalia bring heavy rains starting later today, but that floodwater will then drain into Kings Bay, which then could be pushed back up onto land by storm surge overnight. On scene in Crystal River, Jason Lanning, Spectrum News.
And we want to share with you right now, we just got this information that Sarasota Bradenton International Airport is going to stop operations starting at 7 p.m. tonight. They will suspend those operations till at least 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Already, Tampa International has closed down. They aren't having any flights anymore today and will assess damage. As for St. Pete Clearwater, that's going to stop flights at 3 o'clock today, and then they're expecting to resume 3 o'clock tomorrow. All right, evacuations. Those have already been ordered in at least 21 counties as of Monday night. Now, the number of counties that are under a state of emergency, that's grown to 49 at this point. Take a look here at this map for our Bay Area. There are mandatory evacuation orders for those living in Zone A or manufactured or mobile homes in Hernando, Citrus, Pasco, Manatee, Hillsborough, and Pinellas counties.
Let's really zero in on Pinellas County because due to their unique geography, they have some unique situations when it comes to evacuations. Zone A includes the coast right along the Gulf, but because of the way Pinellas County is geographically, that also includes some of Zone A right up against the bay as well. At this point, anybody in a mandatory evacuation zone should have gone, but not everybody has gone.
Spectrum Bay News 9's Nick Popham joins us from Clearwater Beach for us, speaking to people who were vacationing. He spotted people still out there around this time this afternoon. These are some people that have maybe not gone through a hurricane here in Florida before. Nick.
They've actually come all the way from Maryland, drove about 20 hours down here to the Gulf, and they had never been here for a hurricane, let alone had gone into the Gulf of Mexico. So it was something they really wanted to do. They decided to do it today before hunkering down over the next couple days when Idalia makes landfall. As you can see over here, though, not a lot of people at the beach. There are still a handful of folks coming in to enjoy the last bit of somewhat decent weather before the storm really starts to click. But still, officials are either asking folks to evacuate or stay away from the water. And there's still some folks that are not listening to that, but hopefully will listen as the storm gets closer. But for Mark and Jennifer Newman, they've been visiting with Jennifer's parents in Palm Harbor for years, but haven't had the chance to go swimming in the Gulf. They drove down from Maryland, as I mentioned, over the weekend before learning about Idalia and decided still to go to Clearwater Beach today before the weather got worse. Mark says he's not too concerned for him or his in-laws because they're in Palm Harbor. He recognizes, though, that it's important to see so many spots take advantage of the necessary precautions in order to stay safe.
I see that it's preparing. It wants people to be safe. It wants the community to be aware of what could happen, and it's better to, I've always been under the influence of it's better to be safe than sorry.
They spent much of the morning at Clearwater Beach, but plan to head back to Jennifer's parents' place in Palm Harbor to ride out the storm. He hopes he'll be able to go fishing here in Clearwater after Idalia blows through. But aside from the Newmans, again, there aren't a ton of people here at the beach. There are still some, obviously. We were showing you a couple of them. But to give you an idea, here at Pier 60, the parking lot generally packed around this time. But there's only a handful of cars that are in this parking lot right now. So again, a lot of people taking advantage of moving away from the water sources to be safe when when Idalia makes landfall. But for now, at Clearwater Beach, Nick Popham, Spectrum News.
Thank you so much, Nick. And if you are a vacationer and you're wondering, where do I go? I don't know anyone in the area. We do have those shelters that are open, baynews9.com. You can go to our website, pull that up right now, and head that way.
We talk about heating warnings. What are we warning you about? Well, listen to this. Storm surge is still going to be an issue. The forecast storm surge that we're seeing, meteorologist Josh Linker, Levy County to our north, 10 to 15 feet. As for some Bay Area counties, Citrus County, 7 to 11 feet at this point. Still serious.
Very, very, very serious. And that's right along the coast, but there can be some inland inundation, places like Crystal River, for example. Some of those waterways come right in. It would not surprise me at all to see 5-6 feet right there in town where US 19 cuts through Crystal River. Again, the timing of that would be tomorrow. There are two tides, and we'll talk more about this coming up in just a little bit. What we're contending with now, we're going to kind of get you prepared for the short term here, is we have these pretty intense rain bands that have been coming through. They get some wind gusts over 40 miles per hour, had a 47-mile-an-hour gust at Longboat Key, 44 miles per hour at the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport with that band. The center is still well down to the south and west. It is lifting northeastward, or actually just east of north. So we've got this band coming in here as we, excuse me, look at Clystron 9. There's another one behind it, and then we'll see these increasing in their frequency as we go through time. So let's get you to a closer view here of what we're talking about in Manatee County and eventually moving into Pinellas County. I'll zoom in on this area here. Here's Bradenton, Lakewood Ranch getting some very heavy rain, and this extends out across the mouth of the bay. I certainly wouldn't want to be driving over the Skyway right now, so hold off on that trip. And actually the concerns for the Skyway will just go downhill, or the concerns will increase as we go through the day. Pinellas County, the southern part of the county here, you're starting to get some of the rain, but this whole area is lifting northward, and that is going to lead to some additional problems for us. Let's take a look here at a forecast animation here of what we can expect going forward. Here is Idalia making its way to our west, and we head into tomorrow morning, and this will be another intense band of rain that'll likely be coming through the area around that 6 to 8 o'clock time frame. And then by the afternoon, the storm moves away, but we're going to continue with this onshore wind, and that's where I'm afraid that we're going to have a bit of a problem for places like the Nature Coast with the possibility of that rising water straight through the day tomorrow. Look at the winds here, a gust of 44 in Bradenton. I mentioned that. Now starting to see winds to about 20 in Tampa. Again, these are gusts, a 25-mile-an-hour gust in St. Petersburg. And the peak wind gust that we are expecting, remember, a tropical storm is 39 to 73 miles per hour. A hurricane, 74 and up. That's sustained wind. We're talking about gusts here, and it would really be very surprising to me if anybody in our area had a hurricane-force sustained wind. A gust, northwest Citrus around 75, that's possible. Along the coast, 65, maybe 70, also possible. And the further east you go, outside of some of these bands that come through and maybe an isolated tornado, your overall wind scenario will not be too terrible. So with that said, we'll take a look at our forecast for today. Gusty squalls continue. The high of 92 will eventually go down once those squalls start to come in. And we'll tell you much more about our hazards with this storm through tomorrow, mainly focused along the coast and along adjacent waterways with the threat for rising water. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a few minutes.
You've done the hard part. You quit smoking. Now do the easy part and get scanned for lung cancer. If you smoked, you may still be at risk, but early detection could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Clean, effective, all-day deodorant.
You smell amazing.
It's Native. Native combines the best of nature with the best of science that neutralizes odor-causing bacteria for long-lasting odor protection. Click this link to smell for yourself.
Women are bad with money.
That's what the world's been saying for centuries. But now,
We've got something to say.
Save it. Save the old-fashioned advice, the empty excuses. It's all worthless, unlike us.
To our fellow females, it is time to save ourselves by saving our money.
Contributing to our futures. Investing in our independence.
Until we're no longer
80% more likely than men to live in poverty in retirement.
So again, we say to that, save it.
The falsehoods, the feelings of fault, then the funds.
Learn how to save for your retirement at wesaysaveit.org.
The previous portion of Spectrum Bay News 9 is brought to you by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
Here are your winning lottery numbers.
Utility workers across the Tampa Bay area have been preparing for those power outages that are expected.
Duke Energy supplies power to most of Pinellas and Pasco counties. They mobilized about 4,500 power line technicians, vegetation workers, damage assessors, and support personnel, folks coming from the Southeast and even the Midwest to help out if necessary for power outages.
Now, as for Tampa Electric Company, we know it as TECO, that serves Hillsborough and then portions of Pasco County. It's also bringing in workers, more than 1,000, and then also supplies from other states as well. They're being staged outside of the storm's path, and then those crews go in. Now, ahead of the storm, both of these companies, they shared tips with us. We want to share them with you. Take a look here at your screen. Obviously, gathering supplies like flashlights, batteries, portable chargers, radios, and first aid kits, but also turning your fridge and freezer, you want to do that to the coldest setting right now. You'll also want to turn off and unplug any of those non-essential things, those non-essential electronic devices that you're just not going to use right now. And if you're evacuating for an extended period of time, if you're in one of those zone A's, switch off your home's power at the main breaker. Now, once power is restored, wait 5 to 10 minutes before turning on those electronics. It really puts less strain on the system. Also, remember when outside, after the storm has come through, when you're starting to, come out of your homes and take a look around, avoid any sagging power lines. Also, if you see a down line, assume all lines and any trees that touch them are energized.
If you live in an area where storm surge can be a problem and you have an electric car, make sure you park it somewhere the water cannot get to it. Florida's Chief Financial Officer, Jimmy Petronas, says salt water from storm surge can compromise the batteries of your EV and sometimes spark fires. Petronas also serves as the state fire marshal. He says they had 21 fires connected to EVs during Hurricane Ian. These are pictures from last year when they had some issues down in Southwest Florida during Hurricane Ian with those electric vehicles. From the air to the road. Some people are still at work today, leaving early as offices close. Others are just evacuating.
And we're keeping an eye for bridge closures and any other major road changes. Our traffic expert, Tim Ronca, is monitoring all of it.
I'm Tim Ronca in the Real-Time Traffic Center. Of course, we've been talking a lot about how traffic has been lighter than normal during the usual rush hour times. Might be a little bit busier as folks are trying to get out and evacuate. Now, one thing we're keeping an eye on is the Selman Expressway, roads like that, toll-free today. All of the major toll roads in our area and bridges that usually have tolls have been suspended. That happened at 4 a.m. So as you can see here in our real-time traffic maps, the reversible express lanes have been set to remain eastbound. So during the morning, they're usually westbound. They're now going to be eastbound for the duration of the storm. And of course, the road is toll-free as well. Now let's take a look at this graphic here from FDOT. This is showing us a little bit of what is being suspended for the day. Actually, it's all of them. So pretty much all the roadways now in our area that have tolls, like the Selman, the Suncoast, and the Skyway Bridge, Pinellas Bayway, are all having those toll roads suspended to help with some of those evacuation efforts. So if that is part of your plans today, you can keep that in mind to help with some of that traffic flow. In the traffic center, I'm Tim Ranka.
Taking care of your medication and what to do if they get compromised by the storm. That's coming up next on Spectrum Bay News 9.
It's 1:20. I'm meteorologist Josh Linker. Thank you for staying with us here as we track Hurricane Idalia. One thing we've been monitoring is the water levels. There is a concern, somewhat significant in some places, for a significant storm surge. The main threat is going to be overnight tonight through the day tomorrow. But I'm showing you these water levels here to kind of give you an idea of what we can expect. So we are looking now at Old Port Tampa. The blue line that you see here, this is a chart that shows our high and low tides that would have been predicted had we not been looking at a tropical system, basically with no other external influences. The red line is the observed water level. So we've been running right now about a foot above normal. We're going to go down to a low tide this in the morning. We have a high tide. It gets quickly followed by what is known as a relative low tide. You notice it doesn't go all the way down. It's only a few inches lower than the high tide, and then it shoots up to another astronomically high tide. And the reason that's important is because this will be about the time, especially along the Nature Coast, that we'll be dealing with an onshore wind. And the tidal pattern is similar at all of the sites up and down the coast. So the water will likely rise through high tide and then not drop at low tide. It will likely just keep going, so that by the time we get even to the afternoon high tide, that's when we could be talking about several feet of storm surge. The other thing we're looking at is, of course, the rain and the wind. We're going to Clystron 9 right now, and we can see some rather heavy rain, this first band moving into Manatee County, parts of Pinellas County right now as we zoom in on this area here. You've had some very heavy rain for a time in Lakewood Ranch, now Bradenton, heading up into Parrish, and then across the bay, right across the Skyway, some really heavy rain at the moment into southern sections of Pinellas. This band is continuing to lift northward, and there's going to be some enhancement by the instability out ahead of it with the heating of the day that we have had. So from there, we'll take a look at what else is going on. Farther to the south, we're looking at the center of circulation of Idalia, well back down to the southwest. We've had some gusty squalls coming through the Keys, pretty intense one right in between Key West and Marathon right now, lifting toward the north. So we're going to see this frequency of these squalls increasing as we go through the day. So now we're going to fast forward to later this afternoon. There'll be another one coming through, making its way all the way to the north, and then yet another one or two or three heading through the evening. And then we go into that midnight 1 a.m. time frame, and that's when the center of Idalia will be far enough away that we're not expecting sustained hurricane force winds at all in our area. But these rain bands will contain gusts 50, 60, maybe up to 70, especially along the coast. You want to be aware of that, and that'll continue to make its way northward. For most of us, especially if you're away from the water, this is going to just simply be a tropical storm for us. When you factor in the fact that we'll have a storm surge threat along the coast, that creates bigger problems. And we're going to definitely have that around the bay and then on up through the coastal spots. In fact, we'll take a look at our Q-risk storm surge threat here. 3 to 6 feet, not out of the question in Tampa Bay. And then up the coast, we could be talking about 3, 6, maybe even 9 feet, especially places like Citrus County and points northward, maybe even higher than that, right along the coast, flood-prone areas. There are some populated communities like Crystal River, for example. US 19 runs right through there, right near where the water comes in, and that could likely be a problem with several feet of water as we go through the tide times tomorrow. So we'll take a look at the forecast going forward. We're dealing with tropical weather here for the next couple of days, even staying breezy on Thursday. Eventually the rain coverage comes down for just in time for the holiday weekend. Not so bad with highs in the low 90s by then.
We are connected, engaged, from the moment we rise. We move. We adjust. We learn, explore, relax, and grow together so we're ready to build a better tomorrow. Stay informed throughout your day with the Spectrum News app, exclusively for Spectrum customers.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear. Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
An answer to one of society's biggest questions may be found in the youngest minds. Does poverty impact a child's development, their performance in school? The hypothesis that mothers who have access to cash raise babies with stronger brain development.
The basis of the baby's first year study is really to understand whether providing economic support would change children's trajectories.
Exploring your health, budgeting for brain development, available on all your favorite devices.
Preparations for Idalia. Make sure that you consider your medication and your supplies, especially how they might be impacted in case your power goes out.
We're talking about the storage specifically of those medications and supplies. First, here's some tips here. The FDA says keep an up-to-date list of all of those medications, including the dose that you have on hand. Also, make sure that you place those medication bottles in waterproof containers. That's in case of flooding or other water damage. Drugs exposed to unsafe water obviously could become contaminated. And if there is water exposure, those medications should be thrown away. Also, have ice available for medications that need to be refrigerated. The CDC says when the power is out for a day or more, you also should probably be throwing away any medication that requires refrigeration, unless the label says otherwise.
And more on that hospital evacuation in Tarpon Springs in just a moment. So stay with Spectrum Bay News 9 for our Hurricane Idalia team coverage.
At Spectrum News, we're committed to strengthening the fabric of local communities through our reporting, with stories that inspire and news that matters on your smart TV and connected devices. Streaming live 24/7, plus on-demand weather forecasts. It's all there as you step outside with the Spectrum News mobile app, keeping you informed and in the know throughout your day. Spectrum News, your community connection, exclusively for Spectrum customers. Now available on your favorite devices.
Spectrum Mobile is giving you one free mobile line when you buy one unlimited line for $29.99.
So I can get 2 lines for the price of 1? That's right, for just $29.99.
It's the best deal in mobile.
But is the service reliable?
Absolutely. Spectrum Mobile is super reliable, coast to coast. Get one line for $29.99 and the second line is free.
All with no taxes or hidden fees.
Switch to Spectrum Mobile Unlimited for $29.99 a month and get a second unlimited line free for 12 months. Call 1-844-882-2999.
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars.
Really tall.
I'm a rocket structural engineer, designing and building parts of the rocket. You are the generation that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands? Yes. You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back. Dad! You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Weather on the 9s every 10 minutes. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Thank you for staying with us this afternoon. I'm Erin Murray.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Butera, and you are looking live at the Skyway Bridge, where we are seeing gusts of wind reach 45 miles an hour. If you are driving across Tampa Bay sometime this afternoon, please be careful. Right now, 1:30, I want to set the stage for what's going to happen in the next half hour as you continue to look live. We have a 1:45 news conference scheduled with Governor DeSantis and a 2 o'clock news conference with Hernando County to get a sense of what's happening in one of the northern counties across Tampa Bay.
We do want to right now check back in with meteorologist Josh Slinker, who continues to show us the latest here with Hurricane Idalia. Josh, I mean, just looking at the kind of the ominous look here over the Skyway Bridge, we are starting to feel those effects.
Yeah, that first band that has been coming through Manatee, now eventually moving into Pinellas County, has had several observations of wind gusts around 45 miles per hour, and it's knocking on the doors. I'm going to go over to this side of the camera. This is our view from St. Petersburg, and there is that band. Now, this is lifting northward, so that would be from left to right on your screen from this vantage point as it extends outward into the Gulf of Mexico and then back into Manatee County. But that is an ominous-looking shot on our camera here that is brought to you by the Crown Automotive Group. So let's go right to Klystron 9 right now, and there is the center of Idalia, well down in the lower part of your screen. Actually, it's below where it says closings, but it's down there. And then we have some of these bands that are coming through. This one through Manatee County that I was just talking about, and then there's another one behind it. And really, if you do have to be out and about, I'm going to encourage you strongly to be very weather aware, pay very close attention to what we're saying here by showing you Klystron 9, and perhaps, at least for the next couple of hours, you can time out the lulls in some of these squalls. But after that, after this next one, we're going to be dealing with some pretty strong wind in between the squalls, so easily 30, 40 miles per hour. So that's not the kind of thing you just want to be out and about in. So your window is closing for preparations, especially from Tampa Bay southward. North of the bay, you have a little bit more time before those squalls come in, but these have been pretty intense with those wind gusts in the mid-40s. I would expect as we go through the night tonight, some of those winds could get up to about 50 to 60 or so within some of those squalls that come through. And the biggest concern that we have is storm surge in those flood-prone areas along the coast. We could be talking about a significant problem, especially along the Nature Coast, and still fairly substantial around Tampa Bay. And the timing of that would likely be overnight tonight at high tide, and then another one tomorrow around midday. We'll tell you much more about that threat, and of course more on Idalia coming up in just a few minutes.
One of the things we've been promising you here at Spectrum Bay News 9 is giving you a sense of what's happening all across the Tampa Bay area and giving the ability to focus in on particular cities and counties, so hopefully where you live is covered on our air. Right now we can do that in Citrus County.
We can. Right now with us, we have Sheriff Mike Pendergrass. Thank you so much, Sheriff, for taking a few minutes with us here to talk about some very important things with Hurricane Idalia coming in. Let's start first with those people who live in Zone A. What do they need to know this afternoon going into this evening?
Well, as we were talking about earlier, if you live in this red area on the map, that's Zone A in Citrus County. I'm in Kings Bay Park in Crystal River right now, and this is an area that's part of the evacuation zone. And if you're in that area, you're taking your life into your own hands if you remain in this area once the storm gets around to the point where the winds are high and the tide starts coming in. As we know from past experiences, most recently Hurricane Hermine back in 2016 and the no-name storm back in 1993, water moves much faster than human beings do whenever that tide starts coming in. And with a Category 3 storm that's bearing down on us, we took the really strong step yesterday to have a mandatory evacuation for Zone A because we want to get people to safety and we want to get people out of harm's way so that they can take care of themselves and their family members. And of course, their great pets that they want to have as well. So please get out of Zone A now. We've got our team fully prepared to respond to things that are out there. But Zone A is the most dangerous area right now where just a few feet to the backside of where this camera's at right now, there's potentially 12 foot of water going to be over the roadway later on tonight into the morning hours tomorrow morning as the storm reaches its maximum potential for storm surge and the highest level winds that we're going to see here. And we know leading up to that, we see a huge potential for some tornadoes and some very severe thunderstorms to form out there. And so we want to be prepared for that as well. So please evacuate. Please heed all those warnings that are coming out of our emergency management team and all of those other first responders up and down the nature coast that are encouraging folks to get out of the evacuation zones and get to safety. And you can just evacuate tens of miles away from where the impact's going to be the worst and get out of that cone out there, and you'll be in a safe place and be able to come back and survey damages and everything after the storm passes.
Sheriff, I know you said your team is ready to respond, but I also think that people watching at home need to understand that there comes a point during a storm where it's too dangerous for your people to respond. You don't want people in a situation where they need help and you can't get to them.
Oh, absolutely. Right now, this is the calm before the storm. The Kings Bay area right now is almost like glass. We do see some vehicles out in front of us here that are making final preparations to evacuate equipment and evacuate the personnel that live in those areas. Right behind us here, you'll hear some folks with drills that are drilling boards and screwing them up onto the sides of their windows of their homes. There's a lot of boats that have been taken out of Pete's Pier back here over my shoulder. And we want folks to be in a position where they're in a safe place. But once the storm reaches about 35, 40 miles an hour of sustained winds, that's too dangerous for my deputy sheriffs and any other first responder to be out there. So we'll be pulling our folks off of the road, getting them to a safe place out of the storm's winds, and of course, out of that surge zone that can penetrate several miles past where I'm at right now, deep into the interior of the Crystal River community, the Homosassa community, especially Old Homosassa, and all the way down to Chassawitzka. And those folks that live up in the Barge Canal area up to my north here, they're in harm's way as well. There's a lot of folks that live up there. It's a very rural area. There are several campgrounds up there, and we're going to send some patrols out there today to make sure that those folks have heeded those warnings and left our areas that are most vulnerable to this particular storm and the deadly and very destructive storm surge that we're going to see that comes in with Hurricane Idalia.
Thank you so much, Sheriff. We know your time is valuable. Such great information to share with our viewers, especially those that do live in Citrus County. Thank you.
Sheriff, stay safe.
Well, yeah, we will. Please stay safe out there, and please make sure you're keeping up to date with everything that we're feeding through Bay News 9 and our social media feeds out there. Critical updates will be pushed out as soon as we have them available. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thanks, Sheriff. Our promise to you, we're going to be with you on air during this storm. We're also going to be online if you need us there. We're feeding our website, baynews9.com, with brand new information. We'll also be putting information onto the Spectrum News app.
We have also opened access to that Spectrum News app, our website, and CTV. This means you will not need a Spectrum account to see the live stream or other content. So share that with your friends, with your family, anybody in the Tampa Bay area or in that Big Bend area, send that to them. We're also going to be on the radio for some people. We'll share these stations that will start simulcasting our coverage at 5:30 p.m. today. We have 99.9 FM in Brooksville, along with 1450 AM in Brooksville. 103.9 FM in Spring Hill, also simulcasting coverage.
Can't tell you how important that was during Hurricane Ian last year in Southwest Florida. Power outages were widespread. Those radio stations simulcasting coverage were a lifeline for a lot of viewers who needed information, which is why we also made deals with these radio stations in Citrus County to simulcast starting at 5:30 tonight, 96.7, 95.3, and 103.3 FM.
Time now 1:39. I'm meteorologist Josh Linker. Thanks for staying with us here for Weather on the Nines. We're tracking Hurricane Idalia. It looks like it's going to stay at a safe enough distance from our coastline to avoid hurricane force wind in our area. So even though it's expected to become a major hurricane, we're not concerned about any of that effect on our area. The exception is going to be the storm surge threat. We're also dealing with astronomically high tides. So when you see these rain bands come through, think of just repeated rounds of tropical storm conditions as we go through this afternoon, tonight, and into tomorrow. So a bit of a duration here for us, especially now that we're seeing that first batch of rain bands coming through at the moment. So we'll take a look at what's going on here on Clystron 9. I'll zoom in on this area here right over Tampa Bay. And this first batch of rain now coming through Pinellas County. This has historically produced wind gusts between about 40 and 45 miles per hour. So you're seeing that now approaching Pinellas Park on the west side of St. Pete over toward Tyrone Square area, back across the bay into southern Hillsborough County, and then extends into eastern Manatee. And this will continue the line to lift northward in concert with the storm moving northward. But then these bands sort of swing through from southeast to northwest across the area. The other thing that we're looking at is the potential for storm surge. Now, the highest threat is going to be north of Tampa Bay along the Nature Coast and within the bay itself. And I'm showing you this chart here. I've been showing this throughout the late morning and into the afternoon. The blue line that you see, that is the normal predicted tide. And in this case, we're just looking at the data from Port Manatee. The blue line shows a high tide tomorrow morning, not all that high astronomically, then not much of a dip. That's just called a relative low tide before it goes up to the astronomically high tide around midday. And the concern that we have, at least for our Nature Coast areas, and again, I'm just using Port Manatee as a reference point to show this chart, is that the water levels are expected to rise and not drop off at this low tide and keep going up. And this is where we're afraid we're going to see some of that 5, 6, 7 foot, maybe even higher storm surge the farther north you go along our area. Even right now, we're starting to expect a low tide, but the water levels have stayed up. So we're a little more than a foot above the prediction in Port Manatee at this time. We'll take a look at the radar down south, and we can see some pretty excessive lightning over the Keys, and we've seen some lightning near the center. Again, this was the position at the last advisory for the storm, and it looks like it's moved due north. The center looks like right about there, maybe just a hair east of north in its movement. So we'll go through this afternoon. We see these rain bands come in, and now we're fast forwarding to the morning. Some pretty intense weather right over Tampa Bay. The storm itself, the center, where the hurricane force winds, should miss us to the northwest. However, by the time we get to the morning, we're going to be talking about a very strong onshore wind with the elevated water levels anyway, and this is where we're going to have that potential for that high surge threat along the Nature Coast. Could be in the order of 5, 6, maybe even up to 8 or 9 feet. Places like Hernando, Citrus County. Around the bay, in those flood-prone areas, 3, 4 feet, not out of the question for a storm surge. We'll tell you much more about the forecast coming up throughout the hour, throughout the day, and throughout the night right here on Spectrum Bay News 9.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
From coast to coast, you've seen us around. We live and work in the communities we serve. Our commitment runs deep. We're invested here, creating good jobs and supporting small businesses, many of which we're proud to call customers. You count on us to keep you connected to what matters most. And we're committed to delivering you the best internet, TV, and mobile service. We're Spectrum, connecting the places we all call home.
My mother was always very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual, and she didn't know whether she should go forward or turn, and she wasn't even really sure where she was at. It was very unsettling for her.
I felt so much better after my son told me, "Mom, I don't want you to worry or be afraid. I'll be there for you and we'll figure it out."
We are connected, engaged, from the moment we rise. We move. We adjust. We learn. Explore. Relax. And grow together so we're ready to build a better tomorrow. Stay informed throughout your day with the Spectrum News app, exclusively for Spectrum customers.
We've been talking about how important it is to heed these evacuation warnings. And for a lot of people, it's as simple as getting in your car and driving away from the coast. But there are others who either don't have the transportation or aren't in a health position to be able to do that.
You know, those are our most vulnerable residents. In Tarpon Springs, the Advent Health North Pinellas Hospital, that they've been spending the day evacuating its patients ahead of Hurricane Idalia. Dr. May News 9's Kate McVeigh is there with more details on that process and why these steps are being taken.
The goal here was to have all of the patients transferred out and relocated to the Tampa campus by noon today. It happened just shortly after that. Things went fairly close to plan with more than 60 patients relocated. It was very busy this morning. Take a look at the scene from earlier. You can see a number of ambulances lined up and patients being taken out of the hospital and put into those emergency vehicles on stretchers. The hospital itself is not in a mandatory evacuation zone at this time. As we've been reporting, Pinellas County has issued evacuation orders for Zone A and mobile homes. According to the county map, the hospital is actually in Zone C. However, we are told this campus is very low-lying and is adjacent to some of those Zone A areas, including the golf course we are reporting from just across the street. It's also only minutes from the Gulf, as well as some of those bayous that branch off the Anclote River, where storm surge is of great concern. Hospital executives say at a time like this, they're leaving nothing up to chance.
We're evacuating the Advent Health North Pinellas campus truly out of the abundance of caution. We've been tracking the storm for several days and worked closely with both county officials, city officials, and our divisional leaders to make the best decision possible that would, again, be best safe for our patients.
Again, dozens of patients relocated here from Advent Health's Tarpon Springs location. They were transferred to the Tampa campus, where we are told their care will continue seamlessly. In Tarpon Springs, Kate McVeigh, Spectrum News.
The theme that we have been hearing from leaders today across Tampa Bay is to take this storm seriously. Landfall may be more likely at this point in the Big Bend area of Florida, but storms can be fickle. They can take turns, and even if it does make landfall up in the Big Bend area, we're still going to feel some effects.
We certainly heard that echoed in Tampa today. Spectrum News 9's Lisbeth Gutierrez, she was there asking questions, and she shares an update from Mayor Jane Castor and other city leaders.
That's right. The city of Tampa is continuing to keep you informed and, most importantly, stay safe. Now, they're urging you to wrap up any last-minute plans that you may have, and if you are in an evacuation zone, to leave. All sandbag locations are now closed for those of you who are looking to get those last-minute bags. According to Mayor Jane Castor, more than 30,000 sandbags were given out since yesterday. First responders are also out and encouraging you to leave if you are in one of those evacuation zones. Utility workers are also out and staged throughout the county, prepared for if and when you lose power.
Understand that Mother Nature wins every time. So if you have the opportunity to evacuate and you can, you should, please do.
City leaders say one of their biggest concerns is storm surge. So once again, they urge those who are in an evacuation zone to leave. They encourage you to not head far, but to head inland. Now, the city says they'll continue to provide updates later this evening. On scene in Tampa, Lisbeth Gutierrez, Spectrum News.
Time now 1:49. I'm meteorologist Josh Linker tracking Hurricane Idalia in the Gulf of Mexico, and it's still quite a ways away from where we are, the center that is anyway, but obviously the effects are being felt far to the east and northeast of the center. We are looking at a couple of new tornado warnings that are in place well down to the south around near the Naples area right now, and we'll keep an eye on some of these bands because I mentioned this earlier. Historically, when you see an outer band producing some rotation, it's likely that that same band will continue to produce rotation. So right now this is south of the Fort Myers area, so a little bit of time to monitor the progress of that. But we do have our own bands of rain to contend with crossing Tampa Bay right now. So we'll take a close-up view here on Klystron 9 over the bay itself. And we have this heavy rain over Pinellas County stretching across the bay into southern Hillsborough. A good chunk of Manatee you've had this. Now this band has generally produced 40 to 45 mile per hour wind gusts as it has moved through. That will wind down a little bit, and then we'll focus our attention farther to the south for the next one. So now we'll take a look here at what we can expect through the afternoon. And that is going to be this storm, Idalia, making its way toward the north. And we're going to fast forward all the way to the morning. And this is when the wind will be increasing from an onshore direction. So we've been talking about some water levels that have been high as it is. But the storm surge concern, the main threat, is going to be tomorrow's high tide cycle. There's one early in the morning and then another one in the afternoon. That's where we could have some problems. We'll talk more coming up a little bit later on, but now we're going to send things over to the news conference with the governor.
General for National Guard Major General Haas. We have Columbia County Emergency Management Director Shane Morgan, Sheriff Mark Hunter from Columbia County, and Representative Chuck Brannon. This storm is going to impact inland counties, and particularly in northern Florida. You are going to see significant impacts. You know, the contours of that will obviously be determined by the exact path of the storm. But I think you're doing the right thing to be prepared. So we're talking about counties like Columbia. We're talking about counties like Hamilton, Madison. All those counties are going to be affected by Hurricane Idalia. We are monitoring some of these computer models. You may see the National Hurricane Center update the track in either 2 o'clock or the 5 o'clock advisory. There are models suggesting that this is going to take more of a westward shift that could bring it into areas like Jefferson and Leon and Wakulla area even. And people have known that this is a possibility, and I know all those counties are making preparations, but that is something to look out for. There's still a range of uncertainty here. They're going to be updating this track as the day goes on, and we will have probably better resolution on that as we get to the 2 or the 5 o'clock advisory. But that is a possibility. We've been in contact with all the local officials in all these areas, and I know people have been making preparations. So continue to do that. The state is already starting to feel some effects of this in the southern part of the state. You're going to start to feel some effects of it in the northern part of the state, probably later tonight, the beginning of tomorrow morning. We have expanded our executive order this morning. We now have 49 counties total. We've added Brevard, Orange, and Osceola counties, and so, you know, pretty much that top of the state all the way into central Florida. Maybe excluding some of the farther western panhandle counties, but there's a huge number of counties that are going to feel impacts from this, and we want to make sure they're able to do what they need to do. We're proud of all the staging that's been done, particularly for power restoration. We're now at over 25,000 linemen as of this morning. That is going to be over 30,000, approaching 40,000 by the end of today, and the goal is when the power, and you are going to lose power if you're in the path of this storm, you should assume that that's going to happen. And the goal is going to be rapid restoration of power. Some of the parts where this storm is projected to go are a lot of trees. There's going to be a lot of branches, a lot of trees. There's going to be a lot of power lines down. Just expect that. There's a lot of manpower that's going to expect that. There's a lot of manpower that's going to go to address it, but it's definitely going to be something that is going to require a lot of manpower and a lot of attention. So power restoration is something that is very, very important, and we want to thank all the utilities that have marshaled. We've got people coming from southeastern states. We've got people coming from Nebraska coming to Florida to be ready to go to restore power here in the state of Florida, and we think that's important. The local municipalities that have utilities, some of the electric co-ops, all those, please accept the mutual aid. We want to be able to have as much manpower as possible to get that power back on for all of your residents, and we know how important it is for so many Florida residents to be able to get back online. But you should prepare to have some time without power if you're somebody that's in the path of the storm. And by the path, it doesn't mean just in the cone, because there's going to be impacts that are going to be outside whatever the National Hurricane Center says is the path of the storm. There have been evacuation orders issued for people on coastal areas, barrier islands, low-lying areas. You still have time, particularly if in the northern part of the state, you have time to be able to evacuate. You don't need to drive hundreds of miles. You don't need to try to outrun the storm. Just get to higher ground, get into a safe structure, ride out the storm, then you can go back to your place. But in some of these areas, like a Cedar Key, some of these others, along the Big Bend, you're talking about really, really significant storm surge potential. I mean, this is similar 10, 12 plus feet of storm surge could happen in some of those areas. And the storm surge is not something, you're not going to win that battle if you decide to stay behind for that. You run away from the water and then you hide from the wind. And so in Florida, if you get away from where the surge is going to hit, most of the structures that we have, particularly things that have been built in the last 20, 30 years, those are going to be fine for a Category 3 storm. And so you can hunker down there on higher ground where the storm surge isn't going to be a threat. But if you're putting yourself, if you're hunkering down in an area that could get hit by 10, 12 feet of storm surge, that is a life-threatening situation. And we saw that with Hurricane Ian, just how massive the storm surge was. So you are going to see parts of the coast, probably in the Big Bend area, that is going to have really significant storm surge. We actually anticipate the National Hurricane Center to increase their estimates for the storm surge, particularly in the Big Bend, from where it was this morning. So please be advised, you've got time. You've got the ability to do. I know all these counties have opened up shelters. You can go stay with friends, family. I know there's deals on hotels. You still have time to do that if you're in this Big Bend area, but time is running out very, very rapidly. We are working with counties to make sure they have the resources they need to be able to help their residents weather this hurricane. We've had more than 450 active missions. We've fulfilled or will have those fulfilled sometime today, all 450 of them, and I want to thank the Florida Division of Emergency Management for doing that. We're now up to 1.1 million gallons of fuel that is on standby to be able to mitigate any fuel interruptions, and sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. We'd rather be safe than sorry, so that fuel is there, and that can be deployed as needed if there is an interruption in fuel. We have all 8 urban search and rescue teams from the state of Florida are activated and ready to go. Hopefully they're not going to have anything to do. Hopefully everybody got out of town and there's not, who are in these low-lying areas or in the very vulnerable areas, hopefully there's not a need for rescues, but we assume that there will be, and they're going to be there, and they're going to do their thing, which they do very, very well. We have a lot of assets available. We have 5,500 National Guardsmen. We have Rotary Wing assets. We have Riverine assets. All of that is ready, locked and loaded to be deployed as needed. We have deployed almost 250 Starlink internet devices, and we have over 500 staged that can be sent to areas that need it once the storm passes by. We have 3,000 staged and ready to deploy. We have more than 700 personnel, including over 220 cut and toss crew members, with more than 650 pieces of heavy equipment and trucks strategically placed across the state to prepare for cut and toss operations post-storm. That is going to be necessary. Hurricane Ian because it was a more populated area, the amount of tree debris and some of the others on the road, while there was definitely some, it's probably not going to be as much as this storm will be, because you've got a lot of wooded areas. You're going to see a lot of branches go down, and so we have people standing by to be able to help clear the roads, and that's important just for pedestrian traffic, but also important for emergency response traffic. So that's something that's going to be really, really important. Once the storm passes, or once you lose power, if you use a generator, please use the generator appropriately. You cannot run the generator in your home. You can't run the generator in your garage. You can die from carbon monoxide poisoning. It's got to be outside your house, 20 feet away from doors and windows, and the exhaust needs to be pointing away from your house. So please use that appropriately. There's obviously a need for power generation in these circumstances. We understand that. But make sure that that's being done outside and that there's not exhaust coming into your house. We're going to be heading back after this to Tallahassee to continue with preparation efforts. In the meantime, we'll hear from Director Guthrie, Director Morgan, and CFO Jimmy Petronas.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you for your continued support and leadership in this disaster. I'm going to pick up where the governor left off about generator safety again. Please make sure that that's 20 feet outside your home. I know that we've had a couple of times where we've had people think garages are open. That is not open. It needs to be out away from your garage as well. So please do that. Talked to the chief meteorologist for the Division of Emergency Management, Amy Godsey, just before I walked in the door. Again, reiterating what the governor has already said, we do anticipate seeing some higher level storm surge values coming out of the National Hurricane Center here very shortly, potentially a track back to the west a little bit more towards Jefferson County and potentially even over into Leon. But what I would ask people to do now, especially if they live on the river, its tributaries in the Suwannee River Valley, of course up here in Columbia County as well, please heed the warnings. If Shane or any of your local emergency managers ask for an evacuation, please do that. You are going to lose power. If you are power dependent, you have to have that. You're going to lose power. We are going to lose power. So please make sure you go.
You've been watching live as Governor DeSantis and his team gave a live update from Columbia County, Florida, which is in north central Florida. And he really gave us a better understanding of where the focal point has shifted to. The focal point now in the likely landfall is going to impact the counties of Columbia, Jefferson, Taylor, Dixie, Gilchrist, Levy, Suwannee, those Big Bend counties, right as the state kind of curves over and makes it toward that panhandle area. That's where the focal point has shifted, but we are still concerned about storm surge. Governor said they're still expecting 10 to 12 feet of storm surge and added, you're not going to win that battle.
And of course, we're watching our counties as well, which is why we want to shift now to Hernando County, where a press conference is going on live. This is out of Brooksville at their Emergency Management Center. Let's take a live listen in.
Cause sudden illness and death if inhaled. Never use a generator, pressure washer, or any gasoline-powered engine inside your home, basement, or garage, or less than 20 feet from any window, or door, or vent. Never use a charcoal grill, hibachi, lantern, or portable camping stove inside a home, tent, or camper. Some floodwater safety. Do not play in it. Do not drive through it. We don't know what's in the water. We don't know if it is a hard, sharp material that could cause an injury. It could have some bacteria. Floodwater and standing water can be dangerous. Hand washing. Hand washing, hand washing, hand washing. Wash your hands, soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Scrub with soap and water. Medication. Have enough of your prescriptions on hand to get us through at least the next week. Understand that there's a state of emergency and you are permitted a 30-day emergency prescription from your pharmacy. If you haven't gotten that by now, please keep that in mind for future storms. Special needs sheltering. The time to shelter is now. Pre-register if you can at specialneeds.hernandocounty.us. If you have not been able to do that, when you come to the shelter, we can register you there. So who needs to come to the shelter? People that need refrigerated services for their medication. If you need electricity for life support medical equipment. For basic nursing supervision. And for anybody that is on oxygen, we encourage you to come to the shelter. A few more things about special needs sheltering. The shelter provides a safe space for rest and sleep, as well as meals. We're located at West Hernando Middle School, 14325 Ken Austin Parkway in Brooksville. If you need transportation, please call 352-754-4083. And while your specific needs may vary depending on your medical condition, be sure to bring a week's supply of your regular medications and medical supplies in their original containers with clearly labeled instructions. Any over-the-counter medications you take regularly, a backup list of medications and instructions, a cooler bag for any medications that you may need to be kept cold with you at your cot. If you rely on medical equipment such as glucose monitors, oxygen concentrators, or nebulizers, bring them with you. Oxygen will be available for you on site. More information can be found at hernando.flhealth.gov, or social media can be found at Healthy Hernando.
Thank you, Director Taylor. Appreciate that. Again, our major concerns is the wind and the storm surge. That is at a significant threat to the communities of Aripeka, Hernando Beach, and Pine Island. To speak a little bit more about that, I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Brian Hawkins.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. Brian Hawkins, County Commissioner, District 2. The majority of the mandatory evacuations are in that zone. If you're in low-lying areas in zones A, B, and C, which is west of US 19, there is a mandatory evacuation in effect. Right now, you are able to come back and forth freely as long as you show identification. One of the things that are going to happen is the weather starts to change this afternoon and this evening. That will change. When it becomes unsafe for us to navigate or send out emergency vehicles, if you have not evacuated at time, you will be on your own. So it's important to heed the warnings and get out as soon as you can. I was able to visit a couple sandbag location sites today, one at Linda Pedersen Park and the other one at Anderson Snow. I believe that they're open till 4 p.m. this afternoon or until they run out of supplies. They had a good, healthy supply of sand still available. A lot of people out there utilizing that. So everybody stay safe, heed the warnings, and if you have not evacuated, please make a plan and get out of there. This is 6 to 9 foot potential storm surge. That's going past Shoreline Boulevard, even into the preserve or further. So that's a lot of water that we're looking to potentially have out there at Hernando Beach. Everybody stay safe. God bless.
Thank you, Commissioner. Again, there's a number of different resources that we have. Behind me, we have our emergency support functions. We have 20 of those. They all work collaboratively together to make this disaster. Emergency protective measures before, during, and after. Our recovery efforts are already in place and plans are in place. But I'd like to turn it over to our Chairman of the Board, John Alacco, to say a few words. Chairman.
Thank you. John Alacco, Johnallocco. I'm going to reiterate what you've already heard. Evacuate, okay? The storm surge is serious. Don't take this lightly. Even if you live in a stilt home, understand that there will be things that float in that storm surge that could very likely topple your home. Life is irreplaceable, okay? You can replace things. And we have a fantastic first responders here in Hernando County and all along our coastline. Those first responders have families too, and they would like to be able to come home to their families. So please don't take unnecessary risks. This is all about saving lives right now. As soon as you're able to, if you live west of US 19, please evacuate. Please take the important things that you need, your supplies, your driver's license, anything that's important for identification and your medications. But understand it's not worth putting lives at risk, not your lives or the lives of our first responders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. So again, to emphasize, we are looking at 6 to 9 feet of storm surge above ground level. That is catastrophic. That is life-threatening. Please heed these warnings. They're open. We have mandatory evacuations in place. Once again, I need to reiterate, emergency response will stop once tropical storm force winds start coming into Hernando County. When is that? I don't really know. It's late evening according to National Weather Service. So it depends a lot on the forward motion of the storm, how it grows, the intensity, the forward impact. So a lot of it is unknown. So please, if you have to evacuate, do so now. You still have some time to do that. If you need transportation to a shelter, we can make that arrangement. Our Citizens Information Line is open. Please call 352-754-4083 for storm-related questions. If you need information on where the shelters are located, sandbag locations, how long the shelters are open, if you need transportation to that shelter, we can make those arrangements. But please call now. Please do not call 911 for storm-related questions. 911 must be kept open for emergency service calls only. So we have our Citizens Information Lines open. Operators are standing by, waiting to answer your questions. Hurricane force winds 30 to 40 miles per hour, gusts up to 80 miles per hour. That's going to be sustained pretty much all night into late, maybe tomorrow afternoon. So this is a long duration event once it does hit. Again, there's still a possibility of storm surge once the eye of the storm does make landfall. It is forecasted now to make landfall either at Cedar Key or north, but that can still change. Our next brief is at 7 p.m. from the National Weather Service. So I'll open up to any questions.
How long will you be receiving citizens in the shelters? I mean, there's people that take risk and maybe under the storm try to get there. Will you be receiving them?
We'll receive them as long as it's safe for the roads to be open. Yes.
Off of memory for you, what is another storm that give you guys the same impact as we could see with this one?
We kind of like comparing storms, but every storm has its own nuances. But for comparison, for your question, in 2016 we had Hurricane Hermine that skirted the coastline. This is kind of very similar track. The eye of the storm is going to be about 80 miles off our coast, so it's it's going to be severe. It's going to be about 3 to 4 feet above what we experienced in 2016. So if your house flooded in 2016 in the Hernando Beach, Pine Island, Arapaca area, there's a good possibility it'll flood again. If you did not flood, it's a good possibility it will flood now because it is about 3 feet above what we experienced in 2016. Again, this is going to be catastrophic, life-threatening storm surge. Please heed our evacuation notices. Prep your family, your friends. Make a plan. If you plan to evacuate, please tell family and friends that live out of state so they know where you're going so they can contact you. Have a go kit ready. Have all your personal stuff together. Stay informed. We have our social media pages that'll be updated throughout the day. We have these press conferences, press releases that are coming out. You can follow, go to our emergency management page at hernandocounty.us/EM. We'll have a lot of information posted there. And again, if you have any storm-related questions, please call our Citizens Information Line at 352-754-4083.
You talked a little bit about people utilizing the shelters already. Can you give me an approximate of like what shelters look like for capacity right now?
We have plenty of capacity at this point in time. As of about 12:30, we had about 59 people in shelters amongst the 4 shelters that we have, and we have about 36 pets. So if you have a pet, please bring all necessary equipment to take care of your pet. That is still going to be your responsibility. So bring everything you need, food, dog bowl, leash, whatever, for your cats, litter, the whole 9 yards. So the pet is going to be your responsibility, but we will help give you refuge for that.
What time do you expect the storm to start, or the weather to start deteriorating here?
As we continually progress into the evening, it's going to deteriorate. Obviously, the upper bands are going to start arriving much sooner. Again, it's going to be probably mid-morning or very early, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., possibly, before it even makes landfall. And then it's going to continue on for a very long time. Those outer bands, this is a very large storm. It is about close to 280 miles wide, north to south. The eastern part of the eye wall is much bigger than the west side. So as it moves through the state of Florida, those outer rain bands are going to continue to push through Tampa Bay, Pasco, Hernando, Citrus, Levy, and that storm surge is going to continue on coming.
Any concerns for tornadoes or anything along those lines here, or is it just storm surge?
No, tornadoes has an elevated risk now, Tuesday into Wednesday. So that's always a concern. Any other questions? Again, please take heed of the evacuation notice. Again, this is a major Cat 3 hurricane, possibly getting to a very strong Cat 3, possibly a Cat 4. It all depends on how long it stays out there, forward motion, how long it stays in those warm Gulf waters. The Gulf waters are 1 to 2 degrees warmer than normal, so it's just churning and burning right now. So please take heed. This is catastrophic, life-threatening storm surge that we could possibly experience here in Hernando County. We'll send out a next press brief to you guys through a media release. I appreciate everybody coming today. Have a wonderful and safe afternoon.
And here at 2:14, you're watching Spectrum Bay News 9. I'm Erin Murray here alongside Jeff Butera. We are having you go with us through Hurricane Idalia. That was live out of Hernando County in Brooksville. The big thing there, talking about storm surge. And Jeff, we hear this over and over again when those who've lived in Florida for a few years, we always compare these hurricanes. We heard that in this press conference. They're looking back to 2016 with Hermine and talking to their residents about if you experienced flooding then, there's a good chance that you may experience flooding now. So take heed of that warning because they said 6 to 9 feet above ground level. That's what they're expecting with this storm surge. So if you're living west of US 19 there in Hernando County, you are in a mandatory evacuation zone. That's A, B, and C west of US 19. Those shelters, they're open. You can bring your pets. Make sure you have your medication with you as well. And tell your family. That's such a great bit of advice because we rush, we're trying to get out, but we don't always tell maybe our loved ones who live out of state. Many of us have been getting those texts. And then lastly, another important thing, and I think this applies to all counties, if you have a question about this storm, of course, we want you to use baynews9.com. That's a great resource. But if you want to make a call to somebody directly in the county that you live in, don't call 911. We need to keep those lines open. So if you're in Hernando County, you should call that Citizens Information Line. That's 352-754-4083. So try to keep 911 open just for true emergencies right now.
Here's a bit of advice from living through Hurricane Ian last year. We lost the ability to use these phones in the wake of that storm. Cell phones were not working after those storms. So simply calling home to check on my wife and daughter was something I couldn't do from a news station that was 5 minutes away from where I lived. So just keep that in mind as well as we look ahead. I've also got some breaking news to share with you right now. University of Florida and the University of Central Florida have decided to cancel class for tomorrow. That's Wednesday. They will join the University of South Florida and the University of Tampa right here in Tampa Bay, who have already made that decision. They're not going to go to class tomorrow as well. At this point, we want to bring in meteorologist Josh Linker, who's been tracking this storm for us. Josh, your colleague in the Weather Center, Brian McClure, sent out a tweet, and he was talking about a radar picture he was looking at. He said, there's an increase in the convective inner band wrapping around the center, which was weather term for it's strengthening, it's intensifying. What's going on?
Well, just that. We'll actually start with that, and then we'll get to some of the other specifics. So, yeah, that's a great point that was made. We are looking at the eye of the storm as visible from Klystron 9, and we can clearly see some convection showing up. Now, this is still very far away from our radar site, and we're shooting through several intense bands of rain coming through, but you could definitely see the convective element there. In fact, I'll put the lightning on this here so we could kind of see what we're looking at. And oftentimes when you see a strengthening system, you will see lightning in the eye, or in the eye wall, I should say, and that's exactly what we're seeing here on that east edge of the eye wall. So the lightning there, definitely an indication of some intensification with this particular storm as it moves to the north. We talk about this a lot as well. A hurricane or a tropical storm is not a fixed point. It's not a line or anything like that. So we can see some pretty intense weather well removed from the center. Some of these rain bands have been producing tropical storm force gusts. And the farther south you go, we have this next band that's been producing a couple of tornadoes down around just south of Fort Myers, actually not too far from Naples, lifting toward the north. So as the storm itself lifts north, so too will these intense rain bands. And with them already over land, it's a pretty sure bet that these bands will also come in. That'll be in time for the evening hours, but we're also contending with this one. All right, so after that, actually, let me zoom in on this so you can see what's happening. It's been a little bit of time since we've shown you Klystron 9 here with the governor and then Hernando County. So let's show you what's going on here across Tampa Bay. This is the first rain band. It came in from the south through Manatee County, has historically been producing some 40, 45 mile an hour wind gusts, and now coming into Tampa right now with some gusty wind and some very heavy rain. We'll go to our camera in Tampa at the moment. This is downtown, looking pretty ominous there to the south. You can see the palm trees blowing in the wind, and that is going to be something that we're going to be looking at as this continues to lift toward the north. And just in view here, we have another batch of heavy storms here coming in Fort Myers, down to the south. This is where we have some of those tornado warnings that are in place here around Naples, heading up toward Bonita Springs. And historically, when you get a band outside of a hurricane or a tropical system that is producing tornadoes, that whole band likely has the potential for that. So this is something that we'll watch right now, a little after 2 o'clock, well down to the south. This will follow generally the forward motion of the storm, perhaps accelerated a little bit as it wraps around. So we're talking 5, 6 o'clock, maybe about 5 o'clock in our area for that to come in. The other thing I want to talk about is the storm surge potential. Now, I had this graphic up while the press conference was going on from Hernando County, and they were talking about US 19, which is right here. Any communities that are anywhere near the water, this is where we have a problem. So the general rule of thumb is west of US 19. Aaron had mentioned this earlier. You don't have to go far, because if you are living in some of these areas and you have friends in Spring Hill, Brooksville, that's all you have to go. Just go there. If you can get to somebody else's house, a well-constructed home is going to be a safe place if you're away from the water, because we are not expecting widespread catastrophic wind here. Our biggest concern is going to be the storm surge from this storm, mainly north of Tampa Bay. We've been looking at the water levels throughout the day. Right now we're looking at Clearwater Beach. This is, the blue line is what is the predicted tide if nothing else were going on. Of course, we have a tropical system in the Gulf, so the red line is what we're going to be looking at. That is the actual water observed level here, and it's been running about a foot above. That's okay for right now, but what's going to happen, we're going to go down to a low tide this evening, and then the early morning high tide, that's what we're going to watch. It's not a very big high tide, but the concern is the low tide that follows is just what's known as a relative low tide. And I'm concerned that as those winds come on shore, and this is going to be the case for up and down the entire coast, that our water levels are going to rise through what should be a lowering of the tide, and it'll be this time frame, mid to late morning to around midday tomorrow, that we could have some significant storm surge in those areas north of Tampa Bay. Now we have the information from the 2 o'clock advisory. Idalia now has wind of 90 miles per hour. It's moving to the north at 15. A little bend to the east of north will occur. And the center, still generally unchanged, should make landfall somewhere in the Big Bend. And that would put us on the east side. The winds won't be as catastrophic as near the center, but like I mentioned, we have that storm surge threat, and we're basically going to have a fairly widespread tropical storm scenario around here. Now, we'll be talking much more about the hazards. We'll look at the rainfall potential, which we can handle some rain, and also some wind speeds. I'll have that for you coming up in just a little bit.
About the timing here. Today is August 29th. When you look back at the history of some of the worst storms that we've had in Florida and across the country, Andrew made landfall in late August, Katrina in late August, Ian was late September, and then even if you look back at some of the historical worst storms, Galveston was September, Okeechobee was September. Why is it August and September when we're getting the worst of these storms?
It's the peak of the hurricane season, Jeff. I mean, it's statistically, it's that simple. From mid-August through early October is really that peak statistically of the hurricane season. The warming of the water temperatures lags the summer solstice by a couple of months, so the water temperatures are as warm as they're going to be. You're not quite into the autumn season where you get strong cold fronts to dry things out just yet, and the atmosphere is ripe for these types of storms. So August late through September and then into early October is really the statistical peak of the hurricane season. So it's no surprise that some of the most notable storms in history occurred during that time frame.
I also have a question, Josh. Thank you for that. And it has to kind of do with timing as well, but slightly different. We're watching those bands come in. We're starting to see the rain in Manatee County, our southern counties here. What about those people that are fixing, putting those last touches on their houses? We kind of told them mid-afternoon, by the evening, you really need to have that done. What kind of time frame do people really just need to be finished here with those preps?
Well, really soon, to be honest, Aaron, because we are looking at that potential with this first band that's coming in right now. It's making its way through the immediate Tampa Bay area. So Polk County, I'm not expecting too much in the way of significant hazards other than a couple of these rain bands, maybe an isolated tornado. But if you're in Pasco County, your window is closing quickly because you don't want to be out and about doing those things like moving in patio furniture and that kind of thing. And Hernando and Citrus County, you got a little bit more time before those extreme storms where the gusty winds come in, but that window is quickly closing. Yeah, you could time out in between some of these squalls, but if you're talking about some significant prep and planning that you're trying to do, it's going to be that much tougher. Now, keep in mind, like I've been talking about, we're not looking at widespread hurricane winds, tropical storm, and that is going to lead to some power outages for sure, some trees down in neighborhoods, fences, carports, pool cages, that kind of thing. But that can be certainly a significant nuisance in your area. The big concern in our area is mainly going to be that storm surge threat along the coast. So you definitely want to be heeding those evacuation orders in those spots from Tampa Bay, especially northward along the coast, where you're talking 5, 6, or 10 feet of storm surge. That is going to be quite a significant problem with that, and that could be life-threatening, especially if you're right along the water and you don't have anywhere else to go. So that is definitely something that you want to be aware of. So last-minute preps right now for those kinds of things. If you're in an evacuation zone, especially north of Tampa Bay, you want to be getting out and really making that plan right away. But like we've been talking about, you don't have to go too far. You just have to get out of the evacuation zone. And we'll talk much more about this whole scenario coming up with all the different hazards in just a few minutes. Now we're going to send things back over to, we'll keep things up here with Klystron 9.
I found hope in the midst of an overwhelming situation.
Alcoholism is a disease that can affect any family. Everyone suffers, but there is help and hope at Al-Anon Family Groups.
Al-Anon gave me my life back. I'm a better father and husband.
Are you in an overwhelming situation because of someone else's drinking? Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Local and virtual meetings are available. Maybe one could work for you. Call 1-866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
Spectrum Mobile is giving you one free mobile line when you buy one unlimited line for $29.99.
So I can get 2 lines for the price of one? That's right, for just $29.99.
It's the best deal in mobile.
But is the service reliable?
Absolutely. Spectrum Mobile is super reliable, coast to coast. Get one line for $29.99 and the second line is free.
All with no taxes or hidden fees.
Switch to Spectrum Mobile Unlimited for $29.99 a month and get a second unlimited line free for 12 months. Call 1-844-882-2999.
Days are gone. That's why I'm never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you go. Babe, I'm never gonna let you go. No, never gonna let you go.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go. Never gonna let
Knowing the Tampa Bay area and covering a threat from a hurricane from beginning to end, that's what we do best here at Spectrum Bay News 9. This is our community too. We love hearing people's questions and people's thoughts. We've been here for many storms and we know how people depend on us. Our number one goal is to keep you and your family safe. We don't take that responsibility lightly.
Watch the Spectrum Bay News 9 weather experts on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app. Weather on the 9s every 10 minutes. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Here at 2:28, we continue to track Hurricane Idalia, and we have a live look right now that we want to start off with. This is not a live look. This is video taken from earlier today from St. James City. This is down in Lee County. I'm Aaron Murray.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Butera. The owner of Off the Charts Inn posted this video on her Facebook page and said, quote, "If you're getting worried about being trapped by floods, now is the time to worry." Interestingly, St. James City is on the southern end of Pine Island down in southwest Florida, and Bokeelia is on the northern end of Pine Island. There is one road in and one road out to Pine Island in southwest Florida, and that road severed last year during Ian. When you're talking about relief and just trying to get food and water into a place, and the one road that can get you there severs, that's a problem. There were people who were taking boats just trying to get back to their houses. That was definitely a concern during Hurricane Ian, and they're hoping for not 2.0 happening today.
Our hearts are certainly, we're just thinking about them right now after knowing what they went through back with Ian when it came through this area. So you see this video here, you see that rain from St. James City. Well, we're getting rain of our own now here in the Tampa Bay area. That's why we want to bring in meteorologist Josh Linger, who's been tracking Hurricane Idalia for us all afternoon and even in the morning hours. So we're seeing these bands, Josh, with them come lightning as well.
Yeah, and it's really not a lot of lightning, Aaron. Typically with tropical bands, you get the gusty wind and the potential for rotation. You can get some lightning strikes. The lightning itself is going to be confined to if the bands get particularly intense. Again, there is some lightning. This is not typically one of our bigger hazards. The reason we have some here that is showing up here as we look at Clistrone and Hardee and DeSoto counties, this is actually in response to some extra instability that has developed because of the heating of the day that has taken place. So we're getting an enhancement to some of these storms here over interior sections. And same thing down south. You notice that we're not seeing as much lightning there. But this is a pretty intense rain band here on Clistrone that's been moving through now. Hillsborough County, Pinellas County will make its way into Pasco County shortly. And then this one farther to the south is also quite intense, has produced a couple of small, quick tornadoes. And that band also is moving toward the north. And what we're going to look for as we go through the night is an increase in the frequency of these gusty squalls that come through, and also an increase in their intensity as they do so as well. We want to take a look outside one of our cameras here. This is at Crystal River. This is brought to you by Handyman Roofing, and this is we moved the camera to show a spot where we can very easily track the water level rises. We're actually just past high tide. It occurred about an hour or so ago, and these water levels typically aren't up to the top of this wall here. And this is really not the tide we were concerned with. It's the next one and the one after that. Tomorrow morning early and then into tomorrow afternoon, that could be a big problem, and that's why we are very concerned about storm surge. So we're looking here at Citrus County. This is US 19. I've got this zoomed in using our Q-Risk storm surge predictor here. Crystal River area, easily 3-6 feet right in town as the water comes in, and the timing of that would be likely around late morning to midday as we're approaching that second high tide of the day. If you've been paying attention since the top of the hour when we had Hernando County on there, we're talking about Hermine. I believe it was 3 feet in Crystal River. We'll probably be at about 4 to 5 in Crystal River itself with that. Of course, higher amounts farther to the west, Ozello, Homosassa possibly in that 6 to 8 range, and the really overly catastrophic surge is going to occur just upstream places like Cedar Key, could be up around 12, 13 feet. So that is going to be a huge problem up that way. And we started this segment off talking about what's going on down near that Fort Myers area. Those folks, they can certainly relate to their friends up in the Cedar Key area, and that timing also would be for tomorrow. For the rest of the area, it's these rain bands and the gusty wind, and we'll talk more about that, plus have another look at Clistrone coming up in a few minutes.
One of the things we've been promising you here at Spectrum Bay News 9 is giving you a sense of what's happening all across the Tampa Bay area and giving the ability to focus in on particular cities and counties. So hopefully where you live is covered on our air. Right now we can do that in Citrus County.
We can. Right now with us, we have Sheriff Mike Pendergrass. Thank you so much, Sheriff, for taking a few minutes with us here to talk about some very important things with Hurricane Idalia coming in. Let's start first with those people who live in Zone A. What do they need to know this afternoon going into this evening?
Well, as we were talking about earlier, if you live in this red area on the map, that's Zone A in Citrus County. I'm in Kings Bay Park in Crystal River right now, and this is an area that's part of the evacuation zone. And if you're in that area, you're taking your life into your own hands if you remain in this area once the storm gets around to the point where the winds are high and the tide starts coming in. As we know from past experiences, most recently Hurricane Hermine back in 2016 and the no-name storm back in 1993, water moves much faster than human beings do whenever that tide starts coming in. And with a Category 3 storm that's bearing down on us, we took the really strong step yesterday to have a mandatory evacuation for Zone A because we want to get people to safety and we want to get people out of harm's way so that they can take care of themselves and their family members. And of course, their great pets that they want to have as well. So please get out of Zone A now. We've got our team fully prepared to respond to things that are out there. But Zone A is the most dangerous area right now where just a few feet to the backside of where this camera's at right now, there's potentially 12 foot of water going to be over the roadway later on tonight into the morning hours tomorrow morning as the storm reaches its maximum potential for storm surge and the highest level winds that we're going to see here. And we know leading up to that, we see a huge potential for some tornadoes and some very severe thunderstorms to form out there. And so we want to be prepared for that as well. So please evacuate. Please heed all those warnings that are coming out of our emergency management team and all of those other first responders up and down the nature coast that are encouraging folks to get out of the evacuation zones and get to safety. And you can just evacuate tens of miles away from where the impact's going to be the worst and get out of that cone out there, and you'll be in a safe place and be able to come back and survey damages and everything after the storm passes.
Sheriff, I know you said your team is ready to respond, but I also think that people watching at home need to understand that there comes a point during a storm where it's too dangerous for your people to respond. You don't want people in a situation where they need help and you can't get to them.
Oh, absolutely. Right now, this is the calm before the storm. The Kings Bay area right now is almost like glass. We do see some vehicles out in front of us here that are making final preparations to evacuate equipment and evacuate the personnel that live in those areas. Right behind us here, you'll hear some folks with drills that are drilling boards and screwing them up onto the sides of their windows of their homes. There's a lot of boats that have been taken out of Pete's Pier back here over my shoulder. And we want folks to be in a position where they're in a safe place. But once the storm reaches about 35, 40 miles an hour of sustained winds, that's too dangerous for my deputy sheriffs and any other first responder to be out there. So we'll be pulling our folks off of the road, getting them to a safe place out of the storm's winds, and of course, out of that surge zone that can penetrate several miles past where I'm at right now, deep into the interior of the Crystal River community, the Homosassa community, especially Old Homosassa, and all the way down to Chassawitzka. And those folks that live up in the Barge Canal area up to my north here, they're in harm's way as well. There's a lot of folks that live up there. It's a very rural area. There are several campgrounds up there, and we're going to send some patrols out there today to make sure that those folks have heeded those warnings and left our areas that are most vulnerable to this particular storm and the deadly and very destructive storm surge that we're going to see that comes in with Hurricane Idalia.
Thank you so much, Sheriff. We know your time is valuable. Such great information to share with our viewers, especially those that do live in Citrus County. Thank you.
Sheriff, stay safe.
Well, yeah, we will. Please stay safe out there, and please make sure you're keeping up to date with everything that we're feeding through Bay News 9 and our social media feeds out there. Critical updates will be pushed out as soon as we have them available. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thanks, Sheriff. From the air to the road. Some people are still at work today, leaving early as offices close. Others are just evacuating.
And we're keeping an eye for bridge closures and any other major road changes. Our traffic expert, Tim Ronka, is monitoring all of it.
I'm Tim Ronca in the Real-Time Traffic Center. Of course, we've been talking a lot about how traffic has been lighter than normal during the usual rush hour times. Might be a little bit busier as folks are trying to get out and evacuate. Now, one thing we're keeping an eye on is the Selman Expressway, roads like that, toll-free today. All of the major toll roads in our area and bridges that usually have tolls have been suspended. That happened at 4 a.m. So as you can see here in our real-time traffic maps, the reversible express lanes have been set to remain eastbound. So during the morning, they're usually westbound. They're now going to be eastbound for the duration of the storm, and of course the road is toll-free as well. Now let's take a look at this graphic here from FDOT. This is showing us a little bit of what is being suspended for the day. Actually, it's all of them. So pretty much all the roadways now in our area that have tolls, like the Selman, the Suncoast, and the Skyway Bridge, Pinellas Bayway, are all having those toll roads suspended to help with some of those evacuation efforts. So if that is part of your plans today, you can keep that in mind to help with some of that traffic flow. In the Traffic Center, I'm Tim Ronca.
If you live in an area where storm surge can be a problem and you have an electric car, make sure you park it somewhere the water cannot get to it. Florida's Chief Financial Officer, Jimmy Petronas, says salt water from storm surge can compromise the batteries of your EV and sometimes spark fires. Petronas also serves as the state fire marshal. He says they had 21 fires connected to EVs during Hurricane Ian. These are pictures from last year when they had some issues down in Southwest Florida during Hurricane Ian with those electric vehicles.
It is 2:39. I'm meteorologist Josh Linker. Thanks for staying with us here for Weather on the Nines on our coverage of Hurricane Idalia out in the Gulf of Mexico. And we've seen a couple of rounds of rain bands coming in, and we haven't spoken much about Polk County. You don't really have as many threats as some other areas, but don't want to leave you out. Here's our view from Lakeland, and we can see the sky is becoming a little bit more ominous. The wind isn't all that bad, but you're going to see that tail end of that first band coming in just a short period of time. So we'll take a look at this right now. And the concern for the short term in Polk County, as an example, is you got a little bit of heating of the day. So the storms just to your south, the band of rain has started to produce some lightning in Hardee and Highlands County, and that's going to be moving into Polk County. The center of circulation with Idalia is well out to the south and west to us, and it is moving to the north. So what happens is these bands of rain, very intense bands of rain, continue to also lift to the north. So the first one is coming through Tampa Bay right now. I'll show you that in just a second. And then there's another one down near Fort Myers with pretty intense rain. And this one's a little bit larger. That means as it comes into our area, it's going to last for a longer period of time than the first one. And this first one has been producing quite a bit of gusty wind. So let's take a look here on Klystron 9 of these areas right over Tampa Bay. Right in here, northern Pinellas into southwest Pasco. Now you're seeing this extending across northern Hillsborough County and then into extreme southern Polk County. It's this batch right in here that's lifting northward, and this is where we have some lightning that has been taking shape. But look down to the south. Very impressive stuff here around Port Charlotte down toward Fort Myers, and this is also going to be running northward, and that's what we're going to see. We're going to start closing the window in between some of these gusty squalls so the lulls will become less frequent as we go through the night tonight. So from there, we'll take a look at the wind, and we've had a recent gust of 37 miles per hour in Tampa. Otherwise, no significant gusts reported across the rest of the area. But as these bands come through, this first one easily has been producing fairly widespread 40 to 45 mile per hour gusts. When all is said and done tomorrow late, there's going to be the maximum gust that different areas will have experienced. And this is a general sense that we're looking at. Inland spots 30 to 40, maybe a higher gust briefly in some of those bands, and then we quickly increase that potential closer to the coast. No real hurricane threat here from a wind standpoint. We may see a 75 mile an hour gust around Crystal River just closer to the center as it makes its approach tomorrow morning. Your bigger concern along the coast is going to be that storm surge, and that will also include Tampa Bay. It could be significant enough for some problems, Pinellas County and Hillsborough County, a serious problem from northern Pasco northward along that coast as the coastline bends back out this way. When that wind comes on shore, that water from the swell also piles up, and big problems in Hernando, Citrus County, and then points north up the coast. So that is going to be the biggest concern with respect to this storm. Gusty squalls will continue to increase in their intensity and their frequency as we go through the rest of the day. The wind will also be increasing. Then as we go through the night tonight, heavy rain and wind will continue. There is that continued threat for tornadoes, so you want to be very weather aware. And then heavy rain and wind will continue tomorrow. Conditions will improve later in the day. We'll see a decrease in the frequency of some of the rain bands that'll be coming through. But that's also when we'll be dealing with that storm surge along the Nature Coast, especially by the midday hours tomorrow. We'll talk more about that threat, look at the rest of the forecast coming up in just a few minutes. But first, here's another look at Klystron 9.
In a country where diabetes and obesity are our biggest health challenges.
A suboptimal diet is the #1 risk factor for dying of a chronic disease. Black and brown communities experience the highest burden of diabetes.
Access to healthy foods are not an option.
Something's terribly wrong that this is allowed to happen.
Our healthcare system is not sustainable.
This is actually where the hard work begins.
Watch Exploring Your Health, USA 1C, Fighting the Rise of Diabetes. Available on all your favorite devices.
From coast to coast, you've seen us around. We live and work in the communities we serve. Our commitment runs deep. We're invested here, creating good jobs and supporting small businesses, many of which we're proud to call customers. You count on us to keep you connected to what matters most. And we're committed to delivering you the best internet, TV, and mobile service. We're Spectrum, connecting the places we all call home.
First saw a turtle, my heart was full. Now I'm anything but lonely.
We had this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with Turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet,
we discover
they're a little bit of a lot of things,
but they're all pure love.
At Spectrum News, we're committed to strengthening the fabric of local communities through our reporting, with stories that inspire and news that matters on your smart TV and connected devices. Streaming live 24/7, plus on-demand weather forecasts. It's all there as you step outside with the Spectrum News mobile app, keeping you informed and in the know throughout your day. Spectrum News, your community connection, exclusively for Spectrum customers. Now available on your favorite devices.
Utility workers across the Tampa Bay area have been preparing for those power outages that are expected.
Duke Energy supplies power to most of Pinellas and Pasco counties. They mobilized about 4,500 power line technicians, vegetation workers, damage assessors, and support personnel, folks coming from the Southeast and even the Midwest to help out if necessary for power outages.
Now, as for Tampa Electric Company, we know it as TECO, that serves Hillsborough and then portions of Pasco County. It's also bringing in workers, more than 1,000, and then also supplies from other states as well. They're being staged outside of the storm's path, and then those crews go in. Now, ahead of the storm, both of these companies, they shared tips with us. We want to share them with you. Take a look here at your screen. Obviously, gathering supplies like flashlights, batteries, portable chargers, radios, and first aid kits, but also turning your fridge and freezer, you want to do that to the coldest setting right now. You'll also want to turn off and unplug any of those non-essential things, those non-essential electronic devices that you're just not going to use right now. And if you're evacuating for an extended period of time, if you're in one of those zone A's, switch off your home's power at the main breaker. Now, once power is restored, wait 5 to 10 minutes before turning on those electronics. It really puts less strain on the system. Also, remember when outside, after the storm has come through, when you're starting to, come out of your homes and take a look around, avoid any sagging power lines. Also, if you see a down line, assume all lines and any trees that touch them are energized.
The number one killer during hurricanes, it's storm surge. We say it over and over again. You can hide from the wind, but you need to run from the water. And that means evacuating if you are in an area that is vulnerable to that storm surge.
Now, for those who don't heed those warnings, FEMA says search and rescue teams will be on standby. But again, that is not the situation you want to be in.
Our preparation, getting ready for this, has been to move our resources in. We have urban search and rescue teams that are on standby to support the state with any life-saving needs that they have. We have the Army Corps of Engineers ready to support any power generation missions that they might need. We have teams that are ready to go out into the community door to door to help understand what the impacts are after the storm passes and it's safe to do so. And so we will continue to move forces in to be ready to respond at Florida's request.
Our promise to you, we're going to be with you on air during this storm. We're also going to be online if you need us there. We're feeding our website, baynews9.com, with brand new information. We'll also be putting information onto the Spectrum News app.
We have also opened access to that Spectrum News app, our website, and CTV. This means you will not need a Spectrum account to see the live stream or other content. So share that with your friends, with your family, anybody in the Tampa Bay area or in that Big Bend area, send that to them. We're also going to be on the radio for some people. We'll share these stations that will start simulcasting our coverage at 5:30 p.m. today. We have 99.9 FM in Brooksville, along with 1450 AM in Brooksville. 103.9 FM in Spring Hill, also simulcasting coverage.
Can't tell you how important that was during Hurricane Ian last year in Southwest Florida. Power outages were widespread. Those radio stations simulcasting coverage were a lifeline for a lot of viewers who needed information, which is why we also made deals with these radio stations in Citrus County to simulcast starting at 5:30 tonight, 96.7, 95.3, and 103.3 FM.
I'm meteorologist Josh Linker, continuing to track Hurricane Idalia in the eastern Gulf of Mexico, moving northward as it strengthens. For now, the storm's center will remain offshore, and it'll stay offshore of the Tampa Bay area in west central Florida throughout the entire duration. However, a storm is not a point. So we have some really rough weather far removed from the center. We're looking at Clystron 9 here, and the center is way down here, but we are seeing these intense rain bands now along the coast in southwest Florida. We had our first one come through with some gusty wind, now making its way here as we look at Clystron 9 southwest Pasco on into Hillsborough County. I want to take a look at this area that we're looking at now, making its way into Polk County, and there's been some lightning with this one. Again, this is Highway 60, and we've gotten some enhancement with the heating of the day. So this is a pretty intense cluster of thunderstorms moving into the southern part of Hillsborough County, Polk County at this time. Moving the map a little bit farther to the south, I want to show you what we're going to be expecting soon. Here's Manatee County, Lakewood Ranch. Down to your south in Punta Gorda is the leading edge of the next band. This one also has some gusty wind, very heavy rain, and the rain in this one is going to last longer. We notice this width of the rain from west to east, and it's coming up in this direction here. So you're going to be in this in Manatee, Hillsborough, Pinellas County for a while, and this is where we're going to see some of those heavier rain totals adding up across the area. So let's go from there to the view down south, and we could track a couple of things with this. And what I wanted to point out, here is the center. Here's the southwest coast of Florida, the Keys over here. But what we are somewhat concerned about is all of this down here that extends southward over Cuba. The reason that's important is because as Idalia moves to the north, so too will this moisture that feeds into the circulation. And that's going to be overhead our area as we head into tomorrow. Now, that's also going to coincide with the timing of some of the most significant storm surge that we are going to be looking at here. Around Tampa Bay, 3-4 feet possible if this all pans out at the time of high tide. There's one early in the morning and then a second one in the afternoon. And then the bigger issue, the significant storm surge from northern Pasco northward, especially Hernando and Citrus counties along the coast. We could be talking about 6 to 9 feet, again, right along the coast for storm surge. And then you get just inland places like Crystal River, Homosassa. Those areas could also see storm surge of some degree of significance. Now, we'll take a look at the computer model forecast here as Idalia moves to the north. I mentioned that band of rain that'll be feeding into the circulation. That's going to be overhead somewhere in our area tomorrow in the morning with more intense rain and wind. And then with that onshore wind, that's just going to exacerbate the storm surge problem. And then as the storm pulls toward the north, we'll still have some gusty wind even into the afternoon out of the southwest, continuing to push that water onshore. And that's why we do have those significant concerns for that. And as we look at your 7-day forecast here, the rain chance, well, that stays in play for the next couple of days. And eventually, we should get into some pretty decent weather for the upcoming Labor Day weekend. It'll be hot, of course. That's normal. And there'll be some showers and storms around, but not too many. So looking good for Sunday and Monday.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
So you're telling me this one-size-fits-all network upgrade is the best you guys can do?
Better than that. It's the only thing we do.
That's how we know it's right for you.
Aye.
Is that what I said?
No, I think you were okay. I think that's a yes.
We get it. Ask for the technology you need, and they call you unreasonable. We call you something else, our kind of client. So go ahead, be unreasonable.
I'll be here to hear what's on your mind. Take this time to talk and get it right. You know I'll be there all your life. When you need me, I'll be by your side.
Little everyday conversations about the dangers of underage drinking can make a big difference in a child's life.
This hurricane season, stay informed and prepared with the Spectrum News app. Get up-to-the-minute information from your weather experts, live Klystron 9 radar, and set up essential alerts when you need them most. Spectrum News, your community connection. Available on the App Store and Google Play.
Covering a threat from a hurricane from beginning to end, that's what we do best here at Spectrum Bay News 9. And we've been here for many storms, and we know people depend on us.
Watch the Spectrum Bay News 9 weather experts on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
Our team coverage of Hurricane Idalia continues at the top of the hour.
And we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here with you throughout the storm and after the storm, and our weather experts are going to be guiding you through this storm.
And as we keep telling you, now is a good time to download our Spectrum News app. Share it with your friends and family before the storm gets here. It's free and open to anyone. It has so many resources that can help you prepare, from evacuation instructions and even shelter locations.
Now might also be a good time to jot down the number of your favorite radio station. The ones on your screen here are going to help you stay connected to our weather experts if and when the power goes out. These are the stations that are going to be simulcasting our coverage starting this evening. Can't tell you how important that is if the power goes out, because that can be your lifeline to relevant information to your life.
We'll be back in just a few moments with more updates on Hurricane Idalia. Stay with us and stay safe out there.
answer to one of society's biggest questions may be found in the youngest minds. Does poverty impact a child's development, their performance in school? The hypothesis that mothers who have access to cash raise babies with stronger brain development.
The basis of the baby's first year study is really to understand whether providing economic support would change children's trajectories.
Exploring your health, budgeting for brain development, available on all your favorite devices.
They say the best things in life are free.
That's why Spectrum Mobile is giving you one free mobile line when you buy one unlimited line for $29.99.
Hey, so I can get 2 lines for the price of one? That's right, for just $29.99.
Switch to Spectrum Mobile Unlimited for $29.99 a month and get a second unlimited line free for 12 months with no contracts. Call 1-844-537-2999. Visit spectrum.com/getconnected or Spectrum Store today.
It's the best deal in mobile.
Free mobile sounds good, but is the service reliable?
Absolutely. Spectrum Mobile is super reliable, coast to coast.
Okay, but what's the catch?
Is it contracts? No contracts, no catch.
Get one line for $29.99 and the second line is free.
All with no taxes or hidden fees.
Whew. Man, I'm switching to Spectrum. You said?
Switch to Spectrum Mobile Unlimited for $29.99 a month and get a second unlimited line free for 12 months. Call 1-844-537-2999.
Get the best deal in mobile. Switch to Spectrum.
Knowing the Tampa Bay area and covering a threat from a hurricane from beginning to end, that's what we do best here at Spectrum Bay News 9. This is our community too. We love hearing people's questions and people's thoughts. We've been here for many storms and we know how people depend on us. Our number one goal is to keep you and your family safe. We don't take that responsibility lightly.
Watch the Spectrum Bay News 9 weather experts on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app. Weather on the 9s every 10 minutes. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
As we enter the 3 o'clock hour, you're watching Spectrum Bay News 9 and our team coverage of Hurricane Idalia. Hope you're doing okay. I'm Jeff Butera.
And I'm Erin Murray. The outer bands from Hurricane Idalia have already started to thunder through Tampa Bay. Right now, we are awaiting a news conference from Manatee County. That is set to begin here at the 3 o'clock hour. We know that's getting underway. Actually, right now, we're just getting that word. We want to have you have a live listen in now from leaders there out of Manatee County.
Also, Public Safety Director Jody Fisk and our Deputy Director of Public Safety, Steve Litschauer, all will be talking about the preparations ongoing now for Hurricane Idalia, what's going on here in the county, and what residents can do to make sure that they keep themselves and their families safe. We want to start off with Commission Chair Kevin Van Ostenbridge. Kevin?
Thank you, Bill. We also have with us Commissioner Satcher, Commissioner Ron, and Commissioner Ballard, Deputy County Administrator Courtney DePaul, Interim County Administrator Charlie Bishop, and Tara Polton representing Congressman Buchanan's office. So we're sort of going to give you a state of the state at this point. We're starting to feel some effects of Hurricane Idalia at this point here in Manatee County. We do continue some final preparations, but residents and visitors are monitoring and are continue to monitor messaging and react and respond accordingly. During a normal day, our Manatee County website, which is mymanatee.org, hosts approximately 250 individual users at a time. Luckily, residents have been heeding our advice and listening and going to the site to get information, and our traffic is up to 8,000 users at one time, which is great. So they're checking their evacuation level, they're finding sandbag locations, and they're signing up for Alert Manatee, which we'll get into a little bit later. But remember, if you have any issues accessing the information online, then you can call 311. So our Citizen Information Center for Manatee County is 311. And when you dial that, we have operators who are very busy at this moment, but they're doing a great job. We've beefed up the number of operators in our 311 system. But you can reach out to that to ask virtually any question that's county related. And if you dial 311 from anywhere in Manatee County, it will take you to that system. The outside line to just call the county, though, is 941-748-4501 if you need that. So far, 311 operators have helped over 2,600 visitors and residents from Manatee County. Here at the EOC, our Emergency Operations Center is operating at level 1. Our public safety managers and staff have been working hard, even through the night, to prepare the county for all potential impacts that we may feel from Hurricane Idalia. We are welcoming thousands of new people, as far as users, to Alert Manatee. And Alert Manatee, you can still sign up now. You go to mymanatee.org/Alert Manatee, and you will get real-time information. Once you sign up, you'll get text messages. In the form of a text message, you'll get real-time information on happenings during the course of Hurricane Idalia. And we're talking about things like road closures due to floodings, if there's downed trees and roads are closed, sort of power outages, all these sort of things. Real time, if there's any change in the direction of the storm, all that will be texted out through that alert system. It's become very popular. We highly encourage people to use it. It's a fantastic way for you to stay informed and receive real-time information throughout the storm. We're beginning to see some impacts across the region, as I said before. Low-lying areas and flood-prone areas already have standing water in them. I was out on Anna Maria Island and Longboat Key this afternoon, and there were multiple roads that were flooded at this time. And remember, a flooded road is a closed road. You should not drive through a flooded road. You don't know what's under there. You don't know if there's a potential washout, if there's down power lines. So a flooded road is a closed road. And we say turn around, don't drown, because you have no idea how deep the water could be or if things are flooded out. So please, folks, going forward, because we know that there's going to be a storm surge following what would be considered the impacts of the hurricane. So after the wind and the rain, we know that storm surge will follow that. And in fact, that will be the most significant storm surge. So we're asking you, please, please do not be a disaster tourist or a hurricane tourist. So please just don't go out on the roads sort of, playing like you're a weather guy or a Fox News contributor and trying to catch good footage. Please don't do that. Leave that to experts. Stay off of flooded roads and out of the way of rescue crews and first in teams. And, we'll try and get power linemen out as quickly as we can, but we don't want people in their way. We want to stay clear out of their way so that we can restore power and restore the county to its full operating level as soon as humanly possible. So with that, I'll turn things over to our Public Safety Director, Jody Fisk.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just as a reminder, we have issued mandatory level A evacuations. That is all mobile homes, manufactured, and RVs. So please, if you've not left, take the opportunity now, gather what you need. You can go to one of our shelters. We currently have 3 shelters that are open for the general population: Freedom Elementary, Mills Elementary, and Miller Elementary. Currently at Freedom, we do have 129 evacuees. There are 91 evacuees at Mills and 94 at Miller. Please, again, if you have not left, take what you need. Make your way to a shelter, to a friend, to a family member. Do what you need to keep yourself and your family safe. Excuse me. If you are choosing not to go to one of our shelters and you are going to seek evacuation elsewhere, tens of miles, you don't need to drive to the Florida-Georgia line, tens of miles away from evacuation level A. Make sure that you are comfortable, that you are safe, and ride out the storm. And again, please pay attention to the surge. Tomorrow morning when the winds die down is not going to be the time to try to go home. Pay attention to all of our updates that are coming from public safety. Another reminder for everyone, there will be no trash pickup today or tomorrow, and recycling and yard waste is canceled for the week. If your trash pickup day was today, you will get picked up Thursday. Thursday's trash pickup will be on Friday. Friday's trash pickup will be on Saturday. You can also go to our website to check for all of those updates. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Director and Emergency Management Chief Steve Litschauer.
Good afternoon, Steve Litschauer, Deputy Director of Public Safety. I want to bring to light some of the important actions that we've been doing. We have put in place today our 7 first-in teams strategically placed throughout the county. What these teams are is Public Works, Fire, EMS, law enforcement, to open up the roadways if we have downed trees. Florida Power and Light, Preco Power is with them, so they're in place. Earlier today, Public Safety and our transportation team helped evacuate 116 patients from a downtown assisted living facility to one of our county general population shelters. Please don't wait until the last minute. Now is the time to evacuate. As Director Fisk said, evacuate tens of miles, not hundreds of miles, but now is the time to do this. We do not know yet exactly when or what the storm's going to do. We know we're going to get surge. We know we're going to get rain. We're worried about flooding. The thing with the flooding is the majority of that surge and flood comes after the eye of the storm has gone by. So there'll be a delay of those flooded roads, as it's been mentioned by the chair and the director. If you cannot see the roadway, do not drive through the roadway. We've already been in communication with all the cities, the island communities, about the roads being flooded, what our actions will be. If a road is flooded, it's closed. We're concerned about the surge of 4 to 7 feet, when that will come upon, and we will see winds of over 35 miles an hour or more. If you feel safe with that kind of surge and you're going to stay in place, then you're going to have to stay in place, because once the winds reach 35 miles an hour or more, or the roads are flooded, there's no way of emergency responders to get to you. So in doubt, evacuate now. If in doubt, move now. You have a very short window of opportunity. When it gets dark, you'll not be able to see the roadways. We don't know what the winds are going to do. So please, if you are going to evacuate, do it now before it gets dark. For more information, as has been mentioned, you can go to our website, mymanatee.org, or you can sign up at that website for Alert Manatee. Thank you.
You have any questions?
Yes, you said the county is currently operating at EOC 1. What exactly does that entail here at your office?
A level 1 activation is 24-hour staffing, so we've actually been at that level since yesterday. We have 2 shifts, an Alpha Bravo shift. Every emergency support function is providing 24-hour coverage at the desk. So really since yesterday, we have been on constant conference calls. We've been in direct contact with the state emergency management as well as our federal partners. So it's 24 hours until the storm passes, and we are sure that it is safe for residents to return back to their homes and the shelters are clear.
Currently, there's 3 shelters open. How is that decision made?
Based on the number of population in the affected areas and what the shelters can hold.
If the need arises, you're certainly open to opening more?
Absolutely.
What are some of the areas that you're most concerned about with this storm?
The coastal areas are definitely going to see the bigger impact. The storm has a very, very large wind field, so we expect to see wind impacts throughout the entire county. I would also encourage everyone, please get registered for the alerts. Due to the side of the storm that we're looking to expect, we are expecting to see some tornadic activity. So those alerts will go out as soon as we receive them from the National Weather Service. The coastal counties or coastal area, however, will definitely see the higher wind gusts and they will see the surge.
Talk about the importance of having these teams that were mentioned that are, I guess, throughout the entire county, that I think consist of the sheriff's office.
The first in teams. Excuse me. Once the storm passes, the wind dies down, and it's light out, those teams are responsible to go in and make sure that the roads are clear. So if there are down power lines, if there are trees in the way, any kind of debris, they actually make it passable for first responders. And with the power companies there, we're also able to clear any down power lines and make sure those lines are not active.
What message do you give to people in these mobile homes, manufactured homes, or RVs who are deciding to just, stay and not take these evacuations?
I would urge them to reconsider. If they are choosing to stay, I would highly recommend making sure all of your mobile devices are fully charged. Make sure that you have a cell signal. Call 911 if you find yourself in need. If you decide that you've made a mistake and you didn't evacuate, please do not hesitate to call 911. We will mark your address and make sure that we have noted where you are so that when it is safe for responders to come out, we can go to that location and make sure that you are okay. All right. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
After the door. Yeah, go upstairs too.
You've been watching a live news conference from Manatee County giving us an update on their preparations for Hurricane Idalia. So far today, we have heard from Hillsborough County, we've heard from Pinellas County, Hernando County, and now Manatee County. One of the things we can do here at Spectrum Bay News 9 is give you that sense of what's happening in each individual county that we cover here on Spectrum Bay News 9. A recap of what they just said in Manatee County. They're at a level A evacuation. That includes mobile homes, RVs, and things of that sort. They've got evacuation centers at 3 elementary schools, Freedom, Mills, and Miller. They do have evacuees at those shelters at this point. And 311 is their information line if you're looking for information.
And as Jeff said, we're really checking in on each area as often as we can to give you updated information. We have a team of journalists out there, including we have traffic. And I want to show you a look right now. This is a live look at the Skyway Bridge. I just saw a tweet from our traffic expert, Tim Ronca, saying, here on the Skyway Bridge, they're already seeing gusts of 40 miles per hour. And we know they close this bridge down once those winds are sustainable at 40 miles per hour. Right now, just seeing gusts at 40 miles per hour. So we'll keep an eye on that for sure throughout this afternoon and evening.
Aaron mentioned we have a team of journalists. We also have a team of meteorologists, weather experts that are tracking this storm. We're joined right now by our chief meteorologist, Mike Clay. Mike, I wanted to start here. You sent out a tweet at 1:56 this afternoon, and it left me with a lump in my throat. You said, just recorded the afternoon weather on the Crystal River and Yankeetown radio stations. Hard to know what to say. It was sobering. They're going to carry our audio tonight until the power goes out. I wish them good luck. This is serious for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. And we've been on those radio stations for a decade, and every day you go on, and partly cloudy, scattered thunderstorms, low 72, that kind of thing. And then to have to go on and deliver a message like we had to deliver with that storm surge moving in. It is sobering. You went through that, Jeff, last year in Fort Myers Beach there. So right now we've got these bands moving through, and they are producing some gusty winds, but this is not the hurricane. This is just an outer feeder band. Here's one of them coming through Lakeland right now, and you can see with this you'll get some gusty winds. 40 miles an hour has been common, 45, and the rain will move on. So the rain that we had move through is this first outer band. And a lot of times we see that with a tropical system. That first band really kicks up and means some business. So that's headed up. It's got some lightning with it now. That's headed up into parts of Pasco County right now, and that is just coming in around 75 in portions of Pasco County, and that's producing some very heavy rain and perhaps frequent lightning with that coming into portions of Pasco County right now. Also, it extends back over into southern portions of Polk County, but we're getting that break, and we just saw that Skyway camera. There's not much going on in southern Pinellas County. Then the rain picks up again, and it's moderate rain in Manatee County, and back down through Port Charlotte, it gets quite a bit heavier, and now we're starting to see these bands start to fill in from the southeast, and we're starting to see more and more of this rain push up into our southern counties, and a thunderstorm there around Avon Park, and that's pushing into southern portions of Polk County right now. So that's the close-up view. The wider view, we've got the center showing up very well, the eye showing up better and better now as it gets closer to our radar, and it's offshore in the Gulf of Mexico, and there it is. There is the eye right in there, and that is the center, and it's moving due north, maybe a little bit east of due north, and that's what we'll be monitoring as we head through the rest of the evening, that movement of the eye and how close it gets, and it's going to be close, and then it should go ahead and move back up into the Big Bend area later tonight. So here's the latest satellite, and in the last few frames, watch this very carefully, right about there, we start to see the eye actually showing up in the infrared satellite, and those bands extend back south of Cuba. So here's the latest track, and it'll come across and head up towards South Carolina and out into the Atlantic. And the track, of course, don't pay too much attention to the cone because the cone is shrinking now because the time period is decreasing. It's also moving fast, so the cone, that makes the cone shrink as well. But the impacts will extend well outside the cone, especially on the east side, and that is exactly where we are. Here's a look at the forecast of peak storm surge, and this is why we were so concerned about Crystal River and Yankeetown and Cedar Key, 10 to 15 feet. That will be devastating. That will go 20 or 30 miles inland as well. And then back to Homosassa, 7 to 11 feet. Back down the coast of Hernando and Pasco, 6 to 9. If you're west of 19, evacuate, get out of there. But you don't have to go far. You just go east of 19, and in most cases you're in good shape. 4 to 6, maybe 7 feet max around Tampa Bay. Not that much into the bay, but maybe on the coast. The bay is going to have some water levels increased, and one of the reasons is the astronomical tides are already so high. Max wind gusts around the bay, these are gusts 45, 65. We've already a gust of 45 with that band that moved through. And then along the coast, 55 to 75 and 75 plus from Crystal River up to Yankeetown, back up towards Cedar Key. So here's our computer forecast model. There it is now. What I want you to watch here are the bands coming in on the back side. So there it races up towards the Panhandle tonight. So this model is back to the west. Others are back to the east a little bit. But nevertheless, in any case, these bands come around tomorrow. This is 6 a.m. and they're going to be producing some heavy rain and maybe a few tornadoes. Tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock, we still have some of the bands showing up. The hurricane is long gone. It's moving very fast, but we still have some rains coming down from time to time. And that continues into tomorrow night and probably on Thursday as well. See, the bands just don't move very much going into Thursday, so they're going to stick around for quite a while. Here's a 7-day forecast then, and the rain chances, 100% for tomorrow, windy, high of only 86. Breezy on Thursday, continued on and off showers, high of 89. And even into Friday, pretty good rain chances, high of 89. Then we really dry out as we head towards the holiday weekend, and we also get hotter again as well. We'll keep you updated. Let's go back over to the news studio.
And Mike, before we let you go, I wanted to ask you one more question because of your extensive knowledge. We've been talking about previous hurricanes that we have been covering over the years of our lives and just ones that Florida has seen. I saw a tweet earlier today. You kind of showed where the track is, but I saw a tweet earlier today that said Appalachia Bay, that area is not an area that's ever had a hurricane come through and directly hit it. To your knowledge, A, is that true? And B, describe this area for our viewers because it is very different than the rest of the Florida West Coast.
Right in here, and that's the Big Bend, right in here. It's not very highly populated, so that's a good thing. The bad thing is when this water gets tucked up in here, it doesn't have anywhere to go. And so it's very swampy right along the coast here. And the communities, there's a beautiful one there, Carabella, beautiful. The communities here, a lot of them are fairly far inland, like Perry and Cross City. They're far enough inland. They know that surge is going to come up 20 or 30 miles. So if you go to like Perry, a lot of the homes are still homes. And that's 20 or 30 miles inland. So they know what's going to happen up in here. The hurricane history, well, we don't really know what happened before about 1850. We know there's never been really a major hurricane up into this area, but who knows what happened before that, right? We have no idea. And on our nature coast, this area has not really been hit since the Hurricane Easy in 1950. So 1950, Hurricane Easy came up here and produced 45 inches of rain at Yankeetown, but it stalled. So it sat there for a couple of days. This one's not going to stall. It's going to keep moving.
Chief Meteorologist Mike Clay, thank you very much. Mike, we'll check back with you in a little bit as you continue to track this storm. We've got a couple of breaking news updates we wanted to keep you aware of. First one involves Hillsborough County and transportation, and it's coming from HART. HART is going to suspend all bus, van, and streetcar service for tomorrow, saying they're doing that for the safety of their employees and also riders. So no HART service tomorrow. It is now 3:21, which means the St. Pete Clearwater Airport has now closed as scheduled. They were planning on closing this afternoon at 3 o'clock and then plan to reopen tomorrow at 3 o'clock, pending any situations with damage and their concerns about flying. Tampa Airport has already closed. They're not flying all day. And looking ahead, Sarasota Bradenton Airport closing at 7 tonight with updates to come on when they'll be opening up again.
And another good update we want to share with you as well. We know you saw our Kate McVeigh. She was kind of covering our hospital systems that had to evacuate that are along those Zone A. This one right here, Advent Health, North Pinellas. This is in Tarpon Springs. We have just learned this hour, just a few minutes ago, that they were able to successfully transfer all of their patients from this hospital just to make sure for that safety, because this is an area that could see 5 to 7 feet of that projected storm surge. And last thing I want to touch on as well is the Department of Children and Families also put out to those families that use those SNAP benefits. They're not going to have to wait right now until September the 1st and the 14th when they normally get them. You can look at your account today and see that money in there now. So another update for those families.
Time now 3:23. Looking ahead, we're going to continue to cover any live news conferences that happen across Tampa Bay, as well as if the governor has a news conference coming up. We will have our weather experts, our team of meteorologists continue to track this storm. We have our reporters in the field starting to get a sense of what this storm is already doing to Tampa Bay. These outer bands have started to reach our area, so we'll be getting some reports from them. And we're going to be here with you throughout this storm, right here on Spectrum Bay News 9. Time now for Klystron 9.
Connected, engaged, from the moment we rise. We move. We adjust. We learn, explore, relax, and grow together so we're ready to build a better tomorrow. Stay informed throughout your day with the Spectrum News app, exclusively for Spectrum customers.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear. Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
An answer to one of society's biggest questions may be found in the youngest minds. Does poverty impact a child's development, their performance in school? The hypothesis that mothers who have access to cash raise babies with stronger brain development.
The basis of the baby's first year study is really to understand whether providing economic support would change children's trajectories.
Exploring your health, budgeting for brain development, available on all your favorite devices.
Preparations for Idalia. Make sure that you consider your medication and your supplies, especially how they might be impacted in case your power goes out.
We're talking about the storage specifically of those medications and supplies. First, here's some tips here. The FDA says keep an up-to-date list of all of those medications, including the dose that you have on hand. Also, make sure that you place those medication bottles in waterproof containers. That's in case of flooding or other water damage. Drugs exposed to unsafe water obviously could become contaminated. And if there is water exposure, those medications should be thrown away. Also, have ice available for medications that need to be refrigerated. The CDC says when the power is out for a day or more, you also should probably be throwing away any medication that requires refrigeration, unless the label says otherwise.
And more on that hospital evacuation in Tarpon Springs in just a moment. So stay with Spectrum Bay News 9 for our Hurricane Idalia team coverage.
At Spectrum News, we're committed to strengthening the fabric of local communities through our reporting, with stories that inspire and news that matters on your smart TV and connected devices. Streaming live 24/7, plus on-demand weather forecasts. It's all there as you step outside with the Spectrum News mobile app, keeping you informed and in the know throughout your day. Spectrum News, your community connection, exclusively for Spectrum customers. Now available on your favorite devices.
Spectrum Mobile is giving you one free mobile line when you buy one unlimited line for $29.99.
So I can get 2 lines for the price of 1? That's right, for just $29.99.
It's the best deal in mobile.
But is the service reliable?
Absolutely. Spectrum Mobile is super reliable, coast to coast. Get 1 line for $29.99 and the second line is free.
All with no taxes or hidden fees.
Switch to Spectrum Mobile Unlimited for $29.99 a month and get a second unlimited line free for 12 months. Call 1-844-882-2999.
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars. Really tall. I'm a rocket structural engineer, designing and building parts of the rocket. You are the generation that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands? Yes. You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Weather on the 9s every 10 minutes. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
It's almost 3:30 here as we continue to track Hurricane Idalia. The bands touching the Tampa Bay area now. Good afternoon. I'm Erin Murray alongside Jeff Buter. We're happy to have you with us. Now, at 5:30, we want to let you know right now, we'll be hearing from Tampa City leaders with some good information out of that city.
Right now at 3:30, though, let's give you a live look at the Skyway Bridge. State troopers are saying Skyway Bridge is currently seeing some wind gusts of 40 miles an hour. But it remains open at this time. You can see cars going in both directions on the bridge. It tends to close when winds hit 40 miles an hour sustained. We're getting gusts, but we're not sustained at 40 miles an hour at this point. We'll keep an eye on that. But getting across bridges is such an important element of what happens before, during, and after a storm. Last year during Hurricane Ian, the bridge to Sanibel, the Sanibel Causeway, as well as the only road leading to Pine Island down in southwest Florida, both got cut off. And simple access became such a massive issue. Let's hope that with so many bridges across Tampa Bay, that's not something we're dealing with over the next 24 to 48 hours.
We'll continue to track all of our bridges and along with this storm. And to help us do that, we want to bring in Chief Meteorologist Mike Clay. Can you tell us the latest, Mike, with Hurricane Idalia?
All right, it definitely looks like it's a little stronger, but the big thing is it's moving almost due north. It may have even jogged back a little bit to the west. So this is about the time we told you yesterday that we would really be watching this to make sure it doesn't take any kind of a hard right. We didn't expect it to, but we always are nervous. We've got a Category 3 possible hurricane moving for the Big Bend later tonight. So right now from our radar, it's about 190 miles. There's the center, about 190 miles from our radar, and it looks like it's southwest. And so we've been tracking this all day, and it looks like it's moving more towards the north than any other direction. Occasionally it goes back a little bit to the west, occasionally it goes back a little bit to the east, but the main thing is we're not seeing any big curve back towards our coast right now. So that's the good thing. 190 miles away. If it keeps going to the north, it's probably going to pass by us about 90 to 100 miles west of us tonight. But look at all the active weather going on the east side. This band of storms goes all the way down past Cuba into the Caribbean. So we'll be dealing with that as we head into tomorrow. And around the Bay Area, we've had this line of very gusty squalls coming in and occasionally producing winds to around 40 miles an hour or so. And those heavy showers are coming through parts of Polk County, heavy showers and thunderstorms. So if you're in the Lakeland area, you're getting one of those right now, and it's moving up in towards Haines City and Davenport. It extends back to the west over the Wesley Chapel area, over towards Hudson, with lighter rain behind that. So that's a quick update. We'll have more on the track and the implications for the Nature Coast later tonight coming up.
And right now we are going to check in with one of our reporters spread out across Tampa Bay, just giving you a sense of what's happening outside. This one's going to be in Manatee County. Our Virginia Johnson is there right now. Virginia.
How's it going, Jeff? Good afternoon to both of you. We are here on the riverfront in downtown Bradenton, where we are waiting to see the effects of the storm surge of the storm itself. Now, we had rain start about 10 minutes before our shot as we were hearing Mike Clay talk about the outer bands approaching the viewing area. Want to let you guys know also, I checked out the Sarasota Bradenton International Airport, and they're going to be closing at 7 p.m. tonight. They're going to reopen at 8 a.m. in the morning, pending any damage assessments that they're going to be doing there. Also, we just heard in the 3 o'clock hour from the Manatee County officials about the elementary schools that are open for people that are in the Level A mandatory evacuation zone, as well as manufactured homes. And that's Freedom Elementary, Mills, and Miller. You guys were mentioning that. Also, what's the big deal here? We're waiting for a 4 to 7 foot storm surge. So if you don't live 4 to 7 feet high, you have to decide if you want to take that chance and stay. Now, of course, officials tell people after 35-mile-an-hour winds or if there's flooding, they won't be able to help you. Now, we see it go north, so we also see people's fear kind of lower here. But remember, it's going back tomorrow across Anna Maria Island that you got to wait and see for that storm surge if you can get back on the island. Back to you guys.
Virginia, obviously a very serious topic that we're talking about. Is there someone singing nearby?
Yeah, there sure is.
Okay.
We want you to stay safe out there.
Am I cut?
Thank you so much.
We're still with you, Virginia, but thank you for the live report. Be safe out there, and we'll continue to update you on what's happening with Manatee County. I was listening, and I kept hearing that in the background. It almost sounded like
you had
the
to wonder.
anthem that was going on.
Live TV, so you know. Yeah, it happens.
I'm guessing there wasn't a baseball game that was happening with a national anthem going on.
Probably not right now.
Virginia Johnson reporting for us. As we said, we have our reporters spread out across Tampa Bay, giving you a perspective from all the different counties that we cover here at Spectrum Bay News 9.
And to add on to that a little bit, because we did hear from Manatee County leaders this hour, so good information. If you're living in Manatee, just stick with us here, because that storm surge, you heard Virginia talk about it, that's the biggest thing right there. That zone A, level A, differing terms there in that county, those are the ones you need to evacuate. Or if you're in a mobile home, that's really what county leaders wanted to stress. They do have 3 shelters open there right now. And then also, if you're wanting information, we've been trying to tell people this, now is not the time to call 911 and ask a question about this storm. Most of the counties have information lines, and if you're living in Manatee County, all you have to do is call 311 there. That's their information line.
One of the areas that we've been watching, concerns about storm surge. If you look historically at storm surge, Hurricane Katrina had off the charts storm surge. We're talking about 28 feet in the Gulf Coast. Hurricane Ian last year produced almost 14 feet of storm surge on Fort Myers Beach. What they're expecting at this point is 10 to 12, for example, is what the governor was suggesting might happen in the Big Bend area of Florida. But storm surge is always such a big concern when it comes to hurricanes. They always say you can hide from the wind, but you need to run away from water. It means evacuating if you're in an area that is vulnerable to storm surge. FEMA is also saying that search and rescue teams, if you don't heed the warnings, they're going to be on standby, but don't be the person who ignored evacuation orders and might not be able to get help when you need it.
Our preparation, getting ready for this, has been to move our resources in. We have urban search and rescue teams that are on standby to support the state with any life-saving needs that they have. We have the Army Corps of Engineers ready to support any power generation missions that they might need. We have teams that are ready to go out into the community door to door to help understand what the impacts are after the storm passes and it's safe to do so. And so we will continue to move forces in to be ready to respond at Florida's request.
And it's not just the federal government who's talking about storm surge at this point. Our local leaders are echoing the exact same thing when it comes to the deadly possibility of storm surge.
And we've heard from so many counties today. I mentioned Manatee. We've heard from Hernando. We've heard from Hillsborough. We've heard from Pinellas. We've heard from cities like St. Pete and Tampa as well. They are echoing those sentiments that our very own meteorologists tell you every time that we go through a hurricane.
The cone does not tell you the whole story for where the impacts of the storm are. The outer bands extend much further out. We are still expecting storm surge in our area. We are still expecting tropical storm force and perhaps some hurricane force winds here.
But it's important to understand that the highest impact for storm surge is tomorrow afternoon around 2 p.m. Please stay in your homes, stay alert, and wait for the message from officials that it's safe to leave.
And it's really the wind from the storm that creates that abnormal rise in the water level. That's the storm surge that we're talking about. Right now, you're taking a live look at Madeira Beach. Doesn't look bad. Ominous sky, but not exactly choppy water at this point. I want to bring in Chief Meteorologist Mike Clay. Mike, what can you add to our conversation about storm surge, and in particular the areas that are going to see the worst of it from this storm?
Yeah, that's going to be the big deal when this is all said and done. Something always surprises us, but that's what we expect will be the big deal, and that will be on the Nature Coast. So that surge is going to come in. It's going to be in business. That water's going to be pushed up there, and there's no place for it to go but up. And this is an area that's traditionally had problems. In Hurricane Hermine 2016, the area for Crystal River downtown went underwater, and up to Cedar Key, all of Cedar Key went underwater. And Hermine was coming in about the same spot, but it was a Category 1 when it did. So this is the area people just need to get away from. Cedar Key, back into downtown Crystal River. And you don't have to go far. Go east. This is 19. Go east. 98 here. Go east. And you'll be fine. You have to put up with the wind as the storm comes in. But a lot of the wind that you're hearing, so you see the track, it's going to be Category 3. That's going to be right up on the coast. And as soon as it comes in, that wind's going to drop off very quickly. So even places like Gainesville, hopefully Lake City, hopefully as this comes in late tonight and tomorrow morning, that's about the worst that they get. Now, for our area, we've got some thunderstorms that have gotten really strong in Polk County with the daytime heating, and just a large area of moderate rain all the way down I-75, so that doesn't make it very pleasant for people trying to drive south or north on I-75. Let's look at this storm in Polk County now. This one's really kicked up the lightning. 55 strikes in the Winter Haven area. See folks in Winter Haven, Auburndale, that's going to gust 40, 45 miles an hour when that comes through. It's headed for Lake Alfred and Haines City pretty quickly. So pretty good thunderstorm there in central portions of Polk County right now. So we were talking about storm surge. So this is the storm surge forecast from QRisk, and very much of 9 to 12, maybe 15 feet up here. See where it's tucked in right there? And then further south, running about 6 to 9 feet there. So let's zoom in a little bit. And you can see Crystal River, 3-5 feet right in portions of Crystal River. Homosassa Springs right up to the highway. And we haven't talked a lot about the coast of Hernando County, but we probably should, because that area on the coast of Hernando, you're going to see pretty good storm surge here. Pine Island, we've got a camera there. Bayport, you need to evacuate. Chassahowitzka, evacuate. Arapika, evacuate. Down to Hudson. You have a real storm surge issue in Hudson in the past. You've had surge come in there and cause you some problems. Hudson, all these places right on the water. You need to get along 19 or eastward. And you can see even into northern Pinellas County, there could be some pretty good surge, but it shouldn't make it all the way into Tarpon Springs. But there could be some surge here right along the coast. Honeymoon Island, back right in toward Palm Harbor, right on the highway there in Dunedin, right on the water. And then as you head further south, you start to pick up the intercoastal and the barrier islands, and so things start to get better as you head further south. This is in Tampa Bay. There may be some surge here that may go up to places like Shore Acres and perhaps up towards Oldsmar and maybe even towards Bayshore and MacDill. There could be some high water levels, and it's not hard to do because the water levels are already running high because of the high astronomical tide. Back to you guys.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
From coast to coast, you've seen us around. We live and work in the communities we serve. Our commitment runs deep. We're invested here, creating good jobs and supporting small businesses, many of which we're proud to call customers. You count on us to keep you connected to what matters most. And we're committed to delivering you the best internet, TV, and mobile service. We're Spectrum, connecting the places we all call home.
My mother was always very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual. And she didn't know whether she should go forward or turn, and she wasn't even really sure where she was at. It was very unsettling for her.
I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, I don't want you to worry or be afraid. I'll be there for you and we'll figure it out.
We are connected, engaged, from the moment we rise. We move. We adjust. We learn. Explore, relax, and grow together so we're ready to build a better tomorrow. Stay informed throughout your day with the Spectrum News app, exclusively for Spectrum customers.
Utility workers across the Tampa Bay area have been preparing for those power outages that are expected.
Duke Energy supplies power to most of Pinellas and Pasco counties. They mobilized about 4,500 power line technicians, vegetation workers, damage assessors, and support personnel, folks coming from the Southeast and even the Midwest to help out if necessary for power outages.
Now, as for Tampa Electric Company, we know it as TECO, that serves Hillsborough and then portions of Pasco County. It's also bringing in workers, more than 1,000, and then also supplies from other states as well. They're being staged outside of the storm's path, and then those crews go in. Now, ahead of the storm, both of these companies, they shared tips with us. We want to share them with you. Take a look here at your screen. Obviously, gathering supplies like flashlights, batteries, portable chargers, radios, and first aid kits. But also turning your fridge and freezer, you want to do that to the coldest setting right now. You'll also want to turn off and unplug any of those non-essential things, those non-essential electronic devices that you're just not going to use right now. And if you're evacuating for an extended period of time, if you're in one of those zone A's, switch off your home's power at the main breaker. Now, once power is restored, wait 5 to 10 minutes before turning on those electronics. It really puts less strain on the system. Also, remember when outside, after the storm has come through, when you're starting to, come out of your homes and take a look around, avoid any sagging power lines. Also, if you see a down line, assume all lines and any trees that touch them are energized. An important note for Pinellas County residents, the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority is suspending service for all of its routes at 5 this evening. That includes the Jolly Trolley and the Looper services. Now, routes, it could close sooner if those winds really pick up and sustain at 40 miles per hour. That is the threshold.
And it's worth pointing out, sustain means they're staying there, whereas a gust might reach into 40 miles an hour, but if it's not staying at 40 miles an hour, that's not what they're looking for. We did get an update from Hillsborough County. Hart is suspending all bus, van, and streetcar service for tomorrow. They're expecting to resume some level of service on Thursday. In the meantime, this is interesting, Uber is offering free rides to Florida shelters. They're doing that in Hillsborough, Pinellas, Hernando, and Manatee counties. It's free up to the first $35 on that ride, and you'll have to add the promo code Idalia Relief on your app.
3:49 right now. We're looking out at our handyman roofing camera in Crystal River. I hope it's still here this time tomorrow. We certainly are going to have trouble with that storm surge as we roll through the night here. And we'll be watching these picnic tables. They don't move. There's cement, and that will be our judge. But look how high the water is already here at Crystal River, because of the astronomical high tides, nothing to do with the possibility of a hurricane. Boy, look at those clouds. If that's not tropical, I don't know what is. So let's go look at this. This is on the satellite, and it looks like it's getting wound up. It's gotten a little bit stronger. I can't see an eye on the satellite, or at least a clear eye just yet, but it's right in there, and it's pretty much moving due north with every once in a while it shifts back to the west a little bit or shifts back to the east a little bit, but you kind of average all those out and you get a due north movement. But I also want to show you, look at this moisture on the backside. It goes all the way down into the Caribbean. That tail on the back side is going to be coming up our way and bring us several days with a chance of showers and thunderstorms pretty good. Here's Clystron 9 right now, and we can see the winds across the area, and I saw a gust of 59 earlier at Key West, so that'll get your attention. So here's the last position, the official position, and here's where it is now. So there's the eye right there. So it's moving pretty much due north right now, and it's southwest of Tampa Bay. Look at Clearwater. The winds are calm right now, but in Bradenton, Winter Haven's gusting to 44 as those bands come through. That's why we call it squalls. They come through, they kick up the wind, and then they move on. So here's what's going on with this system. There it is now. Trough coming in the east, and this is the big difference for South Florida. Look at this high. It's strong. We've got low pressure. That is Franklin. You got to have a high between it. Can't have two lows. Got to have a high somewhere, and there it is. And that's pretty much protecting everything from southwest Florida southward. But as the hurricane here moves on up, this all breaks down. So it moves up, the high breaks down, and it pushes the hurricane up into South Carolina. The high hangs on, and eventually that builds back in on top of us and brings us a much drier weather pattern down the road. We'll look at that in a moment. So here's the big picture. Category 1 now, be a Category 2 pretty soon, and then it'll be due to the west of us later tonight. Early in the morning, it'll make landfall up in the Big Bend or along the Nature Coast, and we're going to have impacts all the way into the day tomorrow. And our highest storm surge threat will be tomorrow morning, because once the hurricane passes by, that's when we go back over to a southwesterly wind and we start to build some of that surge in. So here's the forecast of winds, and the yellow is tropical storm, the orange is high-end tropical storm, and the red is hurricane force, and those go up into the panhandle eventually. So the 7-8 forecast calling for a windy, stormy day tomorrow, and a low of 80 and a high of 86. Just not going to change. We're in the tropical air. Thursday and Friday, numerous showers and thunderstorms around, highs of 89. It'll be breezy still on Thursday, but the winds drop on off on Friday, and that sets the stage for quiet weather as we head into the upcoming holiday weekend. We'll be back with another update shortly, but first, here's Klystron 9 again.
We live in a country where diabetes and obesity are our biggest health challenges.
A suboptimal diet is the #1 risk factor for dying of a chronic disease.
Black and brown communities experience the highest burden of diabetes.
Access to healthy foods are not an option.
Something's terribly wrong that this is allowed to happen.
Our healthcare system is not sustainable.
This is actually where the hard work begins.
Watch Exploring Your Health, USA 1C, Fighting the Rise of Diabetes, available on all your favorite devices.
So you're telling me this one-size-fits-all network upgrade is the best you guys can do?
Better than that. It's the only thing we do.
That's how we know it's right for you.
Aye, aye, aye.
Is that what I said?
No, I think you were okay. I think that's a yes.
We get it. Ask for the technology you need, and they call you unreasonable. We call you something else, our kind of client. So go ahead, be unreasonable.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for kids and teens. These programs cover doctor's appointments, hospital visits, prescriptions, shots, and more. As parents, we get peace of mind knowing that our children are covered if they are sick or get injured. You may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if you've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Every night on your evening news, we share meaningful stories from all over Tampa Bay.
We're going to tell you stories not just with facts, but the real people living those stories.
Having that people-centric storytelling, you'll see it in our news, and you'll hear the stories told through the eyes of those who make up our community. And we love to bring you those stories.
And of course, we're going to have your weather on the 9's forecast. Join us for your evening news, weeknights starting at 5 on Spectrum Bay News 9
and on the Spectrum News app.
If you live in an area where storm surge can be a problem and you have an electric car, make sure you park it somewhere the water cannot get to it. Florida's Chief Financial Officer, Jimmy Petronas, says salt water from storm surge can compromise the batteries of your EV and sometimes spark fires. Petronas also serves as the state fire marshal. He says they had 21 fires connected to EVs during Hurricane Ian. These are pictures from last year when they had some issues down in Southwest Florida during Hurricane Ian with those electric vehicles. Our promise to you, we're going to be with you on air during this storm. We're also going to be online if you need us there. We're feeding our website, baynews9.com, with brand new information. We'll also be putting information onto the Spectrum News app.
We have also opened access to that Spectrum News app, our website, and CTV. This means you will not need a Spectrum account to see the live stream or other content. So share that with your friends, with your family, anybody in the Tampa Bay area or in that Big Bend area, send that to them. We're also going to be on the radio for some people. We'll share these stations that will start simulcasting our coverage at 5:30 p.m. today. We have 99.9 FM in Brooksville, along with 1450 AM in Brooksville. 103.9 FM in Spring Hill, also simulcasting coverage.
Can't tell you how important that was during Hurricane Ian last year in Southwest Florida. Power outages were widespread. Those radio stations simulcasting coverage were a lifeline for a lot of viewers who needed information, which is why we also made deals with these radio stations in Citrus County to simulcast starting at 5:30 tonight, 96.7, 95.3, and 103.3 FM.
Our team coverage of Hurricane Idalia continues at the top of the hour.
And we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here with you throughout the storm and after the storm, and our weather experts are going to be guiding you through this storm.
And as we keep telling you, now is a good time to download our Spectrum News app. Share it with your friends and family before the storm gets here. It's free and open to anyone. It has so many resources that can help you prepare, from evacuation instructions and even shelter locations.
Now might also be a good time to jot down the number of your favorite radio station. The ones on your screen here are going to help you stay connected to our weather experts if and when the power goes out. These are the stations that are going to be simulcasting our coverage starting this evening. Can't tell you how important that is if the power goes out, because that can be your lifeline to relevant information to your life.
We'll be back in just a few moments with more updates on Hurricane Idalia. Stay with us and stay safe out there.
Sundays, take an in-depth look at your community. In Focus with Allison Walker, where decision makers come together and examine issues that impact Floridians.
The travel and tourism industry is so very important to the state of Florida.
It's a solutions-based conversation.
I think we're making progress in the right direction.
Your community, your state, your show. In Focus with Allison Walker, Sundays at 11:30 on Spectrum Bay News 9, exclusively on Spectrum.